Welcome to episode 178 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight, we are talking the Conjuring universe. Where should it go? What should happen? Are you fans? Are you not fans? It's all the Conjuring tonight. We have some interesting things to say on this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! We are live! Episode 178, inching closer to episode 200. The Conjuring, the first film in 2013, the second film I think was 2016. And of course, The Devil Made Me Do It was 2021, I believe. You got the spin-offs in there, The Nun, Annabelle. There was that other one, something La Rona, La Viva Las Vegas, or whatever it was called. I can't remember now, but it was it was something like that. I haven't seen it. Tony, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, we're slowly approaching on 200. Just promise me it won't be a Halloween video.
No, it's going to be Halloween. It's going to be Halloween. 30. What is it? 30? 20. What are we? 20, 22 more shows to Halloween. 22 more shows to Halloween. Silver Shamrock. What are you gonna say?
I must thank you for taking it for the team and doing a couple of Halloween videos. I was like, yes, that means we don't have to do anything.
Well, actually, they were. I would have done them.
Tired of talking about that movie.
Well, you know what? It's just because we need things to talk about, right? I mean, if there actually is news to talk about with Halloween, we'll talk about it. Then it gets exciting. But the thing is, once you've been doing it for as long as we have, and as long as I have here on the channel, and of course, people often forget that for those of you that are new, 4 or 5 years ago, Tony had his own channel where he was doing Halloween stuff. For about 2 years, he was doing that shit too. Right.
So and it's like 2 years of that and then doing this, and I'm like, oh, please no more.
I know. But if there's stuff to talk about, we'll definitely talk about it. But no, I did the video where I checked in with everybody, which I always do after the film is released. I let the film go by for a couple of months and I check in to see where everybody is. And then yesterday's stream was just on a question that I get asked a lot. So I decided to do that, just kind of get it out there. But other than that, I mean, I've got nothing more to say. I mean, I've said where Halloween is right now, what is out there right now, I just don't know what else to do. I mean, it's, I don't know what else to talk about. But yeah, the Conjuring universe, Tony.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you being from Connecticut, you obviously have a bit of a, I don't want to say personal, but a bit of a, well, you're from the area. You're from the area where the actual house from the first Conjuring movie is. Not the film, not the house they shot at or used in the movie, but the house that house is based on.
The parent farmhouse, right? Yeah, is on the border. It's in Rhode Island, but it's like kind of nestled in on the northeast corner. No, that would be northwest corner of Rhode Island, northeast corner of Connecticut, and south whatever of Massachusetts. It's like resting on the corner of those three states, because that whole area of New England. It's not a big area. Ed and Lorraine Warren lived in the Monroe area of Connecticut, which is near Sandy Hook. Right. Obviously, everyone knows what happened at Sandy Hook with the elementary school thing, and so where we were from in the South Windsor area, it's like not even a half hour, I don't even think, 25 minutes, to where Ed and Lorraine Warren lived. To the house, because that's going in the opposite direction of the parent farmhouse. It's, again, 45-minute drive, because again, everything is so close to one another. I photographed the house. I photographed the parent farmhouse even before The Conjuring came out, because we were into this shit back in the day, and we knew all this stuff. We knew about Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I was always intrigued by the stories that you would hear and whatnot. I've photographed the Amityville house as well too. I've shared that before. It was interesting. I was very skeptical in 2012 when the first one came out?
2013.
Or 2013. I was like, man, they're gonna do a movie on this shit. Like, I just was like, all right, but I've said it many times. The first Conjuring film is in my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Like, I usually don't do this, and I don't remember, other than Scream, the first Scream, where I left the theater, made a beeline, bought tickets, went right back in, and had to watch it again because had such a great theater experience, enjoyed the movie. I will safe to say The Conjuring was probably the last really good movie going for a horror film anyways. I mean, I had fun seeing the Spider-Man movie last year with my brother and the whole reveal with that. That was just fun because I'm not really a comic book guy, but to see the theater's reaction, how they were freaking out when certain people were showing up in the movie and shit, that was cool. But as far as for my own personal, The Conjuring, the very first one, that was the last from a horror movie, like where I walked out, was like, damn, that was good, and went back and saw it again immediately afterwards. And it was for me, everyone has their own different tastes in movies, so I'm not here to get into debate as far as like what are the 10 best horror movies of all time. But for me, I knew just the more I watched it, it aged well. It's a great story. Yes, it's, obviously there's a lot of liberties that James Wan took into telling the story of what happened to the parent family. A lot of it is obviously Hollywoodized to entertain us as moviegoers. But it's just a well-made, good, scary movie. And for me, it's just, it nestles in that like 7, 8, 9, it can, when I'm doing my top 10 every year, we should do that one day, here soon. Go back and revisit our top 10 horror movies. And, it nestles in that area. I certainly didn't think we were going to get like a cinematic universe with it.
Yeah, it's true. Like, it's true. No, look, I echo everything you're saying. It's The Conjuring, as far as mainstream Hollywood horror movies go, studio produced horror movies, not movies that, kind of spring up onto the scene and, we didn't see coming. There's a lot of foreign horror films, a lot of Japanese horror films, Korean horror films, even some like French horror films that are very good and come from sort of outside of Hollywood, or if they are American films, they're sort of on the independent scene. They'll do the festival circuit, and they'll get discovered that way. But as far as like a mainstream Hollywood horror movie goes, it's usually and this wasn't that. And I remember when the trailers came out for The Conjuring, I was very excited about it because I had just seen, a couple of years prior, I had seen a horror film that I think is, and I say it's underrated because I don't see a lot of people ever really talking about it. And I think maybe the Conjuring universe overshadows it. And to be fair, I think maybe it's just because it was more successful. It embedded itself into the zeitgeist a bit more, but that is James Wan's Insidious, which was a movie that I really liked, that first one. Now the second, I feel the same way about Insidious 1 and 2 as I feel about The Conjuring 1 and 2. I think the first Insidious, I remember seeing that in the theater and loving it. The slow burn. It was made for like $1.5 million. It was a very low budget. I think that might have even been Blumhouse, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
And but this was James Wan. He was coming off of Death. Was it Death? Something with Kevin Bacon. And then, of course, he did Dead Silence prior to that. And then, of course, Saw. So it was like Saw, Dead Silence, and then Death Wish, was it? Or was it the remake? Or something like that. Anyways, the chat room will know, with Kevin Bacon. And then, of course, he goes off and does Insidious. And this was, James Wan, I think, is a terrific horror director. I think his horror sensibility, at least, again, in terms of like mainstream, he does... He brings a certain, I like that his horror movies have a lot of mood, a lot of atmosphere. They generally have that nice slow burn. And Insidious and the first Conjuring were no different. And so I really like the first Insidious a lot. I think it's a really good Hollywood horror movie. And and certainly one of the better Hollywood horror movies, that are mainstream in the last 20 years, in my opinion. And so when the trailers for The Conjuring came out, and it was like, from the director of Insidious, I'm like, oh, fuck. And of course Saw, which was a different kind of horror movie, but again, Saw, holy shit, right? That first one. And so I'm like, I gotta go see this. So my girlfriend, who's not really into horror movies, treated me, and we went, and she says, to this day, and she's not really into it, but she says it was one of the most I don't want to say fun, but like interesting and unique experiences she's ever had at a movie theater during a horror movie, because I don't think she'd ever been to the theater to see like a horror movie before. Thrillers, sure, but like a bona fide like horror movie. And the theater was packed. And of course, as if you go and watch a good horror movie in a packed theater where the audience is really getting into it, it can be a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And I don't mean like annoying fun where like people are talking unnecessarily, but the audience is responding naturally to what, at the appropriate moments at the appropriate times, right? And so it was really fun for her, and she enjoyed the movie, which was a bonus. And but that first the Conjuring is even if it wasn't based on a true story, on its own, standing on its own, it's a great, eerie, slow burn Hollywood horror movie. And those movies don't come along, as often as you would think from Hollywood. They're usually a little more cookie cutter. They're a little more pedestrian. They're a little more paint by numbers. The Conjuring had some style to it. And I think that James Wan is a really good horror director. He's got great horror sensibilities. I don't know if you remember, but the opening, going back to Insidious for a moment, the opening title sequence for the first Insidious movie, I think the second one might have been the same. Maybe they're all the same. I don't know. But the opening title sequence for the first Insidious film is tremendous, where you're like, it's like animated almost, and you're moving through like the house and you see like, the shadows and things like that. And it's really creepy and eerie, and it's just great. But anyway, The Conjuring is, it doesn't peak too soon. It builds, there's breathing room, allowing us to get emotionally attached to the family and to the characters. He's drip feeding you. It's not like the first time that the girls are alone in the bedroom, something crazy happened. No, it's that Jaws kind of thing, right? You just kind of, so you're building and building and building and building. And yes, does it get sensationalized, towards the end? Sure. But it feels earned. I don't mind it because it feels earned. We haven't peaked too soon. This is the payoff. This is what and I understand that, you have to deliver. I get that. So that first Conjuring, I think, is a terrific modern day Hollywood horror movie. One of the best we've had in the last 20 years, for sure.
Oh, hands down. It's just unfortunate because I think, we'll dive deeper into all this, but I love the first one. I like the second one. I thought that using the Amityville opening the way they did, I thought was a wasted opportunity, because I've said this before, that I think the perfect trilogy for this franchise would have been the Perrin farmhouse story, the Enfield poltergeist story that we got in the second one, and then conclude it with the Amityville story. Now, I know we've got the original Amityville movie, we got the Ryan Reynolds remake, we've got the sequels and all that shit. Yeah. But I think if they had done it from the approach, and I mentioned it on our show when we talked about The Conjuring before, is that if you did it from the approach of what happened during the events of Ed and Lorraine Warren's stay and the seances and things like that, if that was the focal point of the movie and you tied in during some, whether it's flashback sequence, however you want to use it, shit that was happening to the Lutzes, we all know it. We're all aware of it. But if you did that almost as a secondary subplot story to the main story being Ed and Lorraine being at the house and the seances and shit going batshit crazy for them, that would have been a very different take, a fresh take on an IP that people are very familiar with. And I thought that was the first, when I saw Conjuring 2, I was like, ooh, like we're going to Amityville, and we're only going to basically give it a footnote at the opening of this movie, when if you dive deeper in, you know, again, whether you believe Ed and Lorraine Warren, I'm not here to get into that debate, are not on things that happen. I know a lot of things have been debunked. A lot of things have been said to be proven wrong about the Amityville. They even took flack for that shit even back in the day. That's nothing new. Right. But the story in itself, you know, the photo of the little boy and the shit that was said to be happening during the seances and the stuff that they were doing at the Amityville house, I really felt could have been its own standalone film, and really should have been the third in conclusion, because again, it's Amityville, right? Could you imagine that if it's the Conjuring, the whatever, Amityville in the title or some shit like that? I think people would have been really excited, because it's, again, everyone knows Amityville, and if they're doing it not in a way that we're used to seeing the Amityville story being told, I think that would have intrigued a lot of people, and that should have been the bookend to their trilogy.
Yeah,
I said that.
I tend to agree with you. I think, like I said a few moments ago, I feel sort of, I like The Conjuring 2 as well, like you. Like I like it. It's fine. I think because James Wan returned for both Insidious Chapter 2 and The Conjuring 2, you know, again, you still have his horror sensibilities. And so you get that, you know, that slower burn, that mood, that atmosphere. But of course, you know, trying to hit lightning, or trying to have lightning in a bottle twice in terms of, you know, the story and the same kind of execution is very difficult. But because he's a competent horror director, it's competently made. It's still a good, scary movie. There's a lot of actually interesting things in that film, you know, with I love just stylistically, I love the when the old man appears in the chair, right, in The Conjuring 2, but it's done like, you know, it's out of focus, and we never, you know, pull focus to reveal. It's just like you can kind of see the image sort of changing into the out of focus, you know. Really love that. I love the false scare when the girl is in the bedroom and you think there's a face behind her, but the light turns on and it's just her poster, you know, like things like that, you know, is good. And again, these are, it's a very drip feed sort of slow burn, but like you, Insidious Chapter 2 was good too, but just not quite as good as the first one. And I would have been amped, you know, had they held off telling, you know, giving us like a little footnote to Amityville. I would have loved if that was going to be their conclusion. Now, obviously, we all know, and if anyone doesn't know the story, spoiler alert, Ed and Lorraine go into the house after the Lutzes leave. You know, it's after the fact. Right.
But you can still tie the Lutzes story into the movie. You don't have to eliminate it entirely.
I say you open the film with them leaving on that stormy night.
And you can have subplot stories happening throughout the film because I believe the Lutzes went, if they didn't go back with them, I might be wrong on that. When Ed and Lorraine showed up into the equation to do the seances with everybody, and all the mediums were there and shit went batshit crazy that night. Yeah. If the Lutzes weren't there, you could have, again, it's Hollywood. You can take license and liberty, and you can bring the characters there, you know, for that night as well too. I'm not 100% sure if they were, but in the movie, you could get away with that because it's a movie, right? There's shit that, like, you know, I mentioned this last weekend for those who don't know. Mr. Perrin from the Perrin farmhouse, the first Conjuring, fucking cold clocked Ed Warren and almost broke his jaw because he felt that Ed and Lorraine were egging on and making it worse. He didn't think they were helping them. Right. So there's a lot of shit that you don't see in the first Conjuring movie that went on in real life. So like the same thing here with the Amityville story. If the Lutzes weren't there during the seances and shit when Ed and Lorraine were, you could still have brought them back, and they could have been sharing shit to Ed and Lorraine of what was happening, and you could see that in flashback sequences, or you can create scenes around Vera and Patrick having these scenes with whoever was playing the Lutzes in the movie. You know, even though it didn't happen in real life, again, this is what movies are for. They're to take liberty on true events and what went down. And you have this crazy ass night that went on in the Amityville house that's been heavily debated on if it's true or not true. That would have been a nice bookend to their trilogy.
I agree with you. And I think, the first Conjuring, first of all, I've always really liked the I don't want to say it's a title sequence, but when the title comes on, and just, the yellow text sort of, scrolling vertically up the screen. I've always liked that. Like from a creative sort of standpoint, I dig that. It's very sort of ethereal, almost, very almost, it's just trying to think of the right word. But anyway, but the Conjuring, we open with Annabelle, right? And we're introduced to Annabelle and the doll, and we see a little bit of that. But then you realize as we pull, we come out of that, really what we are seeing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, is the lecture that Ed is having at the university. I don't believe anything crazy happens in the opening with Annabelle, does it? Is there something crazy that happens? Is there like I can't quite remember. Is there like a death? No, is there wild special effects or something?
That's the incident where they get the basically it's sort of loosely again true. Right. Of them getting the doll from the nurses in Hartford. I can't remember if it's Hartford Hospital or St. Francis Hospital in Hartford. One of the Hartford hospitals anyways. They were nurses that had the doll, and they took the doll. And I think there was an incident because a biker was mocking the doll or some shit, like the real Raggedy Ann doll now, and he died in a crash on his way home or some shit. Yeah. Some nutty thing like that, which I wish they would have. But then again, you're dealing with real life, so I don't know.
Right.
Maybe a car accident instead. Again, instead of showing a motorcycle accident, you show a car accident.
Right.
But yeah, they open up, you see the doll, they're talking to the nurses, and then, then you cut to the shot of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
But nothing happens with the doll in the opening, right? Like, it's not like we see the doll kill anybody or there's any.
No, which really doesn't, other than the girls sharing their stories of, you see like some of the, the knocks on the door and the doll just showing up after, them throwing it away. I think they should have done maybe something loosely based on, the stories that are surrounding the doll. They should have done something like that to create a nice sense of like, oh shit.
I actually was going to say, I'm glad they didn't, because I think that actually helped. Again, when you look at the first Conjuring film, we don't peak too soon. So in terms of visual effects, special effects, sensationalism, people levitating, floorboards moving, walls bleeding, heads exploding, you name it, right? Whatever we're about to see in this demon possession film, we don't get that. And we don't get that until the third act of The Conjuring. Now, you do there is a moment where the demon is like, you kind of see her on top of the,
Bathsheba on top of the armoire.
Armoire. Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah, you kind of see her a bit, and then like in the bed. But that's later in the film, and it's after we've had this sort of, all this stuff feels earned. I just recently watched, and this was sort of the reason why we did the show tonight, was because I just recently finally watched The Conjuring 3, or of course, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And that movie has wild, crazy special effects in the first, 5 minutes of the film. We're seeing the boy, a contortionist, whatever, his body and all that cast, and all power to the kid or the stunt guy, because I believe they actually did do that. That's great. But we're seeing all the wild, like it was like the third act of a movie. Yeah. And you got that a little bit with The Conjuring 2 with the Amityville thing.
Sure. They came in guns blazing.
They came on in guns blazing, whereas the first Conjuring, it was very subtle, and then you realize, Ed's at the university and he's giving a lecture. I think maybe every movie should start like that. Now, maybe maybe you can't, but here's where you can take creative liberties, right? Maybe Ed, by the time this actually happened in real life, he wasn't doing that at the university. Okay, but cinematically, maybe it works better for the stories, where maybe every story begins with a little something, kind of just, and then we pull out and we realize it's Ed. Maybe he's not always at, the university. Maybe he's having a dinner with, with Lorraine and or whatever, something to get the ball rolling, but you don't go from 0 to 100 in the first 6 minutes of the movie, because then you have nowhere to go. Now, in terms of, like, I'm speaking at this from the perspective of a horror fan that loves mood, atmosphere, tension, and building that tension and not peeking and showing the monster too soon. So that's always the perspective I'm going to come at this from. And the first Conjuring did that really well. Now, of course, James Wan did the second one, and I mean, I would have been like, I don't think we need to show this. Maybe you can talk about the Amityville. Maybe you could show something that, maybe it just maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even talked about it. No. Because it's such a big IP. You know what I mean? It's something that everyone knows that. It's like there's so many other stories, there's so many other cases that Ed and Lorraine have done that you could have done as a bumper at the beginning of the film if you wanted to have.
For sure.
To have that. Why are you wasting Amityville on that?
I know.
Fuck?
It's too. Maybe they felt that because there have been two, there's the Amityville from 79, there's the remake in 05. Maybe they felt that to tackling, it would be a little sort of repetitive maybe. But like you said, you do it from a different perspective and it's not really a big deal. But I just found that when I watched The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, here's what I think on that. So I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not a bad horror movie, or anything like that. But because James Wan is such a good horror director, I mean, look what he did with Insidious, look what he did with Saw, look what he did with The Conjuring. I mean, I was even a fan of Malignant, even though I completely understand that it takes a wild, unexpected turn. And I understand that when it does that, people are either going to be on board or they're not. I get it. I understand it. But I think we can all agree, even if you're somebody that doesn't like where Malignant went, let's go back to before that happened. The same kind of feeling to that movie, right? Lots of mood, lots of atmosphere, that slow burn, that mystery, what's going on. He's terrific at doing that.
Do you know what they could have done at the opening of Conjuring 2? Do you remember? Because I don't think you need to do a full-blown movie on this, but the character Frenchie, who's also in The Nun, who is possessed, and you see the 8mm film when he's in the first Conjuring, when he's speaking, and you see Lorraine having her reaction, and he's telling the story to Mr. Perrin in The Conjuring about, he'll never put his wife through something like that again on what she saw and all this stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. You could have totally, because it connects, because Valak, the nun, is connected to Frenchie, which we find out in The Nun. That's how the spirit of Valak gets latched on to Frenchie in the movie. You see that. I don't think you need a full movie on the character, but certainly you could have opened up with them during the exorcism. If you want to come in guns blazing like that, then come in guns blazing with that, because you can still tie the Valak character in The Conjuring 2, with the exorcism of the character Frenchie. And,
I see what you're saying.
Not waste, because I know Valak is introduced to us in the Amityville house. I wouldn't have done that. I would not have brought Valak into
I agree with you.
Into the Amityville story. I would have kept it with the Frenchie character and open up with his exorcism, and that connects the two movies.
I agree with you. I do. We're on the same page there in terms of the opening of The Conjuring 2. And now it doesn't, ruin the film or anything like that, but I agree. It was unnecessary to start not just with something that was a little sensational, but to start with the Amityville story. I agree with that. When it comes to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, like I said, I don't think it's a bad movie, but I do, it's not like awful or anything. I mean, I've seen far worse, horror movies. But because James Wan is such a good he's got a style. He's got a certain style. You know, you watch Insidious, you watch The Conjuring, he's got a style, and he's very good at it. It was sorely missed in this film. It was sorely missed. Just everything about in my opinion, everything about The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It was pedestrian. It was just it was a paint by numbers. It looked good. It was polished. The acting was fine. Ed and Lorraine, but it was just okay. You know, it was, you know, it didn't have that thing. It didn't, and I think part of that, I'd have to watch it again. I've only seen it once, is that, like I said, the first, and I understand it. I know what the story is, you know, it's being told, but the first 5 minutes of that movie, it is 0 to 100. Guns are blazing, heads are turning, eyes are turning evil. People are being tossed across the room. Chandeliers are exploding. You know, contortionists are going, you know, and it's like, I'm not even, like, I haven't even, like, the credits aren't even done. Yeah. What the hell is going on? So the film has nowhere to go on that level. Now, there's still a story that's going to be told. There's still a story that they're going to tell. I get that. But in terms of the creep factor, in terms of the anticipation, in terms of the suspense, in terms of the mood and the tension and you've peaked too soon. You know, it's like, no, you've got to build this. Horror movies are about building suspense, building tension. You don't just fire, you know, you don't blow your load in the first 5 minutes. And that's what, in my opinion, that's what happened there. So for the rest of the movie, when crazy shit happens, and it happens a lot, I'm like, yeah, I saw this in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Like, I'm not impressed. I'm not like, oh no, I'm not getting it. Not that we ever really are like that with modern effects anyway, because we're so desensitized. Sure. But you know what I mean though, right? Like, you know, you want to live in that space and you want to live in that world. And, you know, I want to live in that, and it's just gone. And so it's not a bad movie, but, you know, even though we did see the Amityville stuff at the beginning of The Conjuring 2, and I agree with you, shouldn't have done that. And even though it got a little sensational, the one thing that kept The Conjuring 2 after the opening, after the prologue, still so effective is James Wan. You still have James Wan as the director. So even though The Conjuring 2 may have done a little bit of that, although I think The Devil Made Me Do It was far worse, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe not. I'd have to go back and watch part 2. And when I say worse, I mean, you know, more sensational, but you still got Wan. And so the rest of the movie is, you know, there's a lot of effective things and a lot of cool things in that. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, it feels like it peaked and then it just stayed there. It just stayed at that level through the rest of the movie. Whereas The Conjuring 2 might have peaked a little too soon, but then there was still room to go because you've got James Wan and his horror sensibilities. So I was like, oh, okay, James, you might have done that, but okay, you're winning me over here a little bit with, you know what I mean? You didn't get that with The Devil Made Me Do It. At least I didn't get that. So, you know, are your thoughts like that with The Devil Made Me Do It?
Oh, they're way worse. And because I have more of a sentimental attachment to that story.
Right,
I did a huge report in high school on that story. For those who don't know too, and that was the first case that went to court.
That's right.
That was that they used the argument of devil possession.
Yeah.
Never.
Hence the title,
ever,
The Devil Made Me Do It.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the first time. And they glossed over that. Like, that was a significant thing that, the first time in US history that was being done in the legal system, in the court of law. So I was like, okay, we're just going to gloss over that. And secondly, the whole point of that case is the relationship between Arnie Johnson and David Getzel, the young kid. And they left out so much shit that happened to this kid that really should have been the heart and soul of that story leading up to what eventually happened with Arnie, and that they, try to prove in case that,
right.
through this. In The Exorcism, I mean, it did happen. I'm not saying it now. Did it happen to the extent what we saw in the movie? I don't know, but I don't think it was that that crazy when they did the exorcism on the kid.
You didn't come out of a waterbed.
There is a waterbed incident though. There is a waterbed incident that happened to the kid. So but obviously it was sensationalized for the movie. But there was a lot of shit that was happening to this kid that really, the other thing that really pissed me off about this film is, yes, Ed Warren had a heart attack, but he didn't have a heart attack until fucking the late 80s that crippled him into a wheelchair. He was not in a wheelchair at all during this. He was very actively involved. Now, helping the police and assisting them on this that is true. I mean, because they did that a lot, but definitely they brought out a little bit of that, what Ed and Lorraine Warren did to help investigations that were, we'll just say, out of the norm, where they needed somebody to come in and be like, okay, what do you think? So that was true. The witchcraft thing, I believe, is true with the story. It's been a minute since I've read up on the actual story, but I believe there was something to do with the house that they were in Connecticut, there in that county. And I believe there was some witchcraft thing to it. I think it even stretched all the way up to Massachusetts. I will say, though, the house that they have, that the house where all shit goes down at the end of the film and everything, that's actually here in Georgia. I've photographed it, and it's sitting on, it's a mill, it's a reservoir, and that's supposed to be the Connecticut River. I'm like, the Connecticut River doesn't have, because it's the only river that goes up through Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Right.
I mean, as far as, location goes, they could have done something a little bit better to give you more of a sense of a house sitting on a river, if that's what they wanted to use as their backdrop, and not just, I get location, I get Scream's supposed to be in New York, but it's actually in Montreal, but whatever. That's nitpicking. But the point is but the point is, the story itself, I remember when I heard that they were doing this story, I was so fucking excited, because I was like, I know this story.
Right.
I can't wait to see what they're going to do with this story. I did a report on this shit in high school. It's a very intriguing story, especially of everything that happens to the young kid and how Arnie's tied together with it, and just how shit got batshit crazy in that house. And it really, like you said, you get all of it at the beginning, and then it's polished in throughout the film. But then Arnie is locked up for more than 3/4 of the film, and they're trying to save him through another exorcism and shit like that. And I'm like, none of that shit happened. None of it was even true. This was one of those movies that they could have stayed more in line with more the truth, instead of veering off into I don't know where the fuck they went. I don't know why. I don't know who approved these ideas. I don't know why that, because there's so much meat to that story that you've got enough there to really creep an audience out if you just stuck to the story. But
right.
You go into this whole thing where you're saving Arnie, and because of the witchcraft, and it's just like, motherfucker,
it's funny because, and I'm not saying that this is, because obviously you can still make a creepy movie that is not centered on one location. But The Conjuring, there was a central focus around one location, right? The Conjuring 2, there was sort of a central focus around one location. There was a haunting that was going on, right? And and of course, possession, all that. But it was very focused on the home. With The Devil Made Me Do It, I felt like I was almost watching a National Treasure. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like they were traveling to all different locations and things. And again, I'm not saying that you can't do that and make a just as an eerie, creepy movie like the first two films. Of course you can. But maybe just thinking about it now in retrospect, maybe that was part of the change in tone and the change in feel of the film, and because now there's so many things that are happening, and it's not sort of localized, and so now people are going over here and they're driving over here, and it was like I was watching
and they're merging different stories that happened at different times, not even in the same 10-year span. They're merging Ed's heart attack into this film when it didn't even happen for about another decade, where he was crippled and in the wheelchair. So you're merging different things into this storyline of the Warrens and things that they would do for officers, because they did do that. They did help them out on cases and stuff. Yeah. But as far as this goes, this guy, there's taking liberty in telling a story and saying it's inspired by true events. And then there's going so far off the fucking tracks with it that you're just like, what are you doing? Like, there's so much there that you can take liberties. No one's saying you can't take liberties in telling a story, but damn, there's so much there that if you just stay the course, tell the story, you can still tell creepy shit, because a lot of fucked up shit happened to that kid. Because when was the last time we seen a kid possession movie, right, that scared people? The Exorcist. Yeah. Right? That was the last, or where it involves a young kid.
And that, of course, it's 50 years ago, but that was slow burn.
So if they had focused more on the kid in this film, and that was the story, and again, you could take liberties, you can do certain things, but when you're going so far off the fucking tracks, like you said, and it's becoming a National Treasure type movie, and then
I like National Treasure. I didn't say that because I don't like National Treasure. I just mean in terms of it felt like an adventure film.
Right, those are fun films,
but actually, but
you get to a point where you're like you have to do a fucking exorcism to save Arnie Johnson in the prison, and it's just from committing suicide.
And it's so over the top.
That didn't happen. Like none of that happened. That's not even like a remote. Like, that's not taking liberty. That's saying we're going to fucking tell a complete bullshit story that has nothing to do with anything that's inspired by true events.
Right. Yeah.
Other than maybe the opening of the film and when he kills someone. That's it.
Right. But the opening goes from 0 to 100 in 5 minutes. And again, I watched it and I'm thinking, well, like, I walked away going, well, I don't think it's not a bad movie, or I think it's not like the worst movie I've ever seen. It's competently made. It's polished. There's some nice, cinematography. There's some, and sure. But overall, when I think of the first two films, this is a step backwards for me, or down. Not a large step, not a gigantic leap, but a step. And because it didn't have that Conjuring feel, it didn't have the feel, and like I said, it could be because you have a director. You have a different filmmaker, a different vision, a different style. And that's fine. I'm not saying that James Wan's got he brought his style to it, but James Wan is so good at the modern day. That doesn't mean you have to like everything he does, but he's very good at mood and suspense and eeriness. And
do you know what movie nails it on the taking liberty and taking license, and being over the top? And we know this didn't happen, but it was a good, fun story. Annabelle Comes Home. That's where you can take liberty, because that's more of like an adventure and babysitting type movie, because it is centered around the young kids staying overnight in the Warrens' house. That's where I was like, okay, I know none of this shit went down, but I see what they're doing. I went into it knowing that there's no truth behind any of Annabelle Comes Home, but it was a fun movie. So that's where you can take, and there's true events, there's true things that happen. There's stories that they talk about in different haunts. The Woman in the White Dress, which is an infamous one with Ed Warren, that you see, and it's somewhat talked about in that film. You see the Conjuring house in that movie. You see Annabelle, obviously, because it's Annabelle. Yeah. So they tie in a lot of the things that happened, or that the cases that Ed and Lorraine did, and they put it into this fun adventure and babysitting type movie. So a movie like that, watching Annabelle Comes Home, I'm okay with them taking and go as far off the deep end with it as you want to go, because that's the idea of it. But when you're telling a story like The Conjuring 3 that's inspired by true events, yes, but when you're going so far off, see, like with the first one and the second one, they did take liberties with some of the stuff that they did, but James Wan didn't go too far off the deep end either, where we're telling a completely different story. We know it's documented that shit happened to Mrs. Perrin, the mom of the first one. It's documented. Look it all up. Did it happen to the extent of what happened to the actress in the first Conjuring movie? Of course not. We know that. But they obviously need to give you a payoff at the end of that film, and they got to give you something. They're not going to just, show a woman feeling sick and, you know, whatever the things that she went. I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but she went through stuff. The mother did go through some things at that time in that house. So, but like I was saying, that's where Juan can take some liberties to at least deliver you a good payoff while staying on the tracks of telling the story. Whereas in Conjuring 3, I don't know, they were on like 10 different tracks all at once. It wasn't spooky. You know, I'm not saying there weren't moments that had like a little sort of, you know, some fun stuff, but overall, I just thought the film was, you know, you should watch of the three Annabelle movies. You should watch Annabelle Comes Home, because I'm curious to know what you. Yeah, think. I actually haven't seen any of the Annabelle films. Yeah, I know you haven't. So I have to, and I haven't seen The Nun either. And I don't give a shit that there's a Nun 2 that's coming out. I think The Nun 2 is being directed. The Nun, where they missed the boat on that again. Well, I just don't understand. Sorry, I just want to say I don't understand, because we had this conversation when The Nun was coming out. And help me to understand if they figured out a way around this. But I remember thinking, why are they doing a whole Nun movie when the Nun's existence is almost predicated on Lorraine Warren, isn't it? Because of what she, like, it's, am I off on that? Or is that like, that's no, it's how they presented the character to us in the movie. Right, exactly. And I remember thinking, and I thought the same thing with Annabelle. Now, I'm happy to hear that Annabelle Comes Home was good and you enjoyed it, and maybe I'll watch it and be like, oh, this is good. It's a fun popcorn movie, right? Fair enough. You know you're not taking it serious. Sure. You get what they did, and it's a good time for an hour and a half. Is it localized to like one location? Yeah, it's one location. It's at the house. It's at the Warren house. There you go. And, you know, it's centered around the kids. It's focused on the Warren's kid and the babysitters. Right. And it's a crazy night of babysitting based around some of the stuff, some of the stories, or some of the cases that involved the Warren family. Well, I remember when I saw the Nun trailer and people were asking me if I was going to go see it. And I said no. And they said, why? I said, because it looks like shit. And I said, and I have no desire to see it. And I say this, and this might surprise some people, and maybe I'm being a little hard, but it takes me a lot. Well, you know, and you know this because you're the same way. It takes a lot for us to go out to the theater and see a movie. Now, for you, it's because you just don't fucking like being around people. I just don't like dealing with people. And that's fair. And that's fair. And that's fair. For me, it's because the vast majority of movies, like, unless it's, you know, like an Avatar, you know, it's an experience, or a Star Wars movie, or, you know, or something that's just like that really piques my. But when it comes to horror movies, very rarely will I go see a horror movie in the theater. Now, why? Well, that's because most horror movies are not very good. And I don't want to spend $15 to go and watch it in the movie theater. Now, of course, I saw the Halloweens in the theater, but that's because I have a channel that is Halloween dominated, and I needed to see it. Obviously. But if I didn't have a channel, I might have gone to see Halloween 18, yes, because it's new, it's exciting. I may not have gone to see Kills. I'll be honest with you. I may not have gone to see it. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, you didn't know who I was just going about my life. You know, I may not have. I might have, but I may not have. I saw 2018. I did not see Kills or Ends in theaters. I watched those on Peacock. Well, I saw both in the theater, but the first two were, I saw 18 because of the world premiere, and I saw Kills because of an advanced screening. Ends was the only one that I actually paid for. So, but anyway, that being said, the Nun, again, I'm not trying to, you know, fart on people's parades, but I don't know. I just roll, and I guess maybe it's age. I don't know, but I'm like, why does everything have to be connected on a big unit? Well, listen, I understand it. Business, money, show business. You go watch it. That's why they keep making it. And that, it sounds very cliche, but that is literally, it is as simple as that. You keep watching it, they will keep making it.
It's that simple, right? It's that simple. And they don't give a shit about, now when I say they don't give a shit about the fans, I'm not, again, I'm not saying they don't care at all or they're horrible people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's the fact that you go and see the movie. And the second you don't go see it, the second you're not watching that TV show anymore, the second the TV show is not getting any more viewers, they drop it. They don't care if stories are unresolved. They don't care if arcs are incomplete. How many times have we watched a Netflix show or a show that we're really into and all of a sudden it gets canceled and we're like, what's going on? Well, nobody was watching. And it's like, oh yeah, but what happened to it? But I'm never going to know. How is it? They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck if their stories.
Show business,
it's show business, baby. Now to us, because we don't have a dog in the fight, from that perspective, it's not like I got shares in, Netflix or something. Maybe I should start. But anyway, or I made the movie, or something, or the show. But they don't care. Yes, they know, and they're like, yeah, I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it's not getting viewers, and so if it's not getting viewers, we're going to cancel it. Too bad if the stories are unresolved, right? So, and maybe I'm becoming more cynical, but I just look at all these movies and stuff, everything's connected, and I'm just like, everything can't be good. Like the more you make, the less good there will be. That's just reality. The more you make of something, the less good of that something there will be. So we're going to make 55 movies. Good luck. Let's keep it. Not everything has to be a universe. Not everything has to be a trilogy. Not everything has to be connected. I like your idea. I really like your idea where it's like, you know what? The Conjuring 2, and The Conjuring 3, of course, in a world where it wasn't show business, per se, or where it wasn't all about money, of course. And I'm not knocking it. Like, I get it. I get the capitalist world we live in. I understand it. I get it. There's a lot of pros. There's a lot of cons. Totally get it. I understand show business. I mean, I'm in the entertainment industry myself and the voiceover side of things. I get it. I understand it. However, I just, in a perfect world, it would be nice to have a trilogy and just leave it the fuck alone. You know what I mean? And just like, I like that idea where it's like The Conjuring 2, and then The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And sorry, not The Devil Made Me Do It, but the Amityville. Right? The Amityville, something like that.
Oh, you go off on a high note.
Yeah, it's just this nice, tight trilogy or whatever. But again, if I was a studio executive, if I was on the other side of the coin, I get it. Like, I understand it. I'm an executive. I'm not a filmmaker, right?
I heard they're aiming on the Jason series, the Friday the 13th. They're trying to go for 4 seasons already. I'm like, really? Now, all right.
Start with, maybe that, that
Can
probably
we just start with 1 and see how that goes?
That probably means they have a 4-season arc mapped out. But they're obviously going to start with 1 and see how it goes. But if it's successful, then they have other
ideas.
More to tell. But again, if I was a studio executive, most studio executives are not filmmakers. They're not thinking from an artistic story point of view. They're thinking from business, bottom line. A lot of these decisions are made by committee, and you got a lot of chefs in the kitchen, and you got all these things, and it's a whole thing. And it's not that there isn't value to it. I don't have a degree in law or business or how to run a studio. There's certain things that I could probably figure out. There's certain things I wouldn't know how to do. I get show business. I understand it. I really do. It's just too bad that when something really great comes along, the studio, and I understand, but there's this need to exploit the hell out of it. Hey, that was really successful. Let's make 500 more. Quick, get out the t-shirts, get out the, and it's like, oh God, can we just sit with this one for a know what I mean? Like, do we have to rush? Quick, sequel. Megan 2, Megan 3, Megan 4, Megan 5, Megan 6.
I haven't even watched Megan 1.
I haven't yet either. I
have zero desire to.
But why? Why? Because it's made nearly $100 million on a $12 million budget. I get it. If I was Jason Blum, I'd be making the same fucking decision. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, he's in business. He's running a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's money, baby.
That's the way it goes. But it is funny the older you get when you're not, because, when you're a teenager, you're not thinking about that. I mean, maybe to be fair, for the lack of, for fear of sounding condescending, because I certainly don't mean to, I think maybe teenagers and 20-somethings today, early 20s, college, they're probably a lot smarter and wiser to how Hollywood works today, maybe than we were when we were that age, because of the internet and the ease of access to information. They can learn, they watch, movie shows that, talk about all that kind of stuff. But when we were kids, we weren't thinking about this stuff. We didn't know anything. We were just on movies, and why are they making sequels? Well, probably because they really care about us, and the movie was really good. It's like, no. That's not why. But yeah, it's so, I don't know. I mean, Megan 2 was greenlit like a week after Megan was released. It was only in theaters for a week, but because it made like 30 million.
Obviously, look, I don't have any interest in watching it, but there's obviously a fan base out there that has liked it and enjoyed it and enjoyed 100%. Enjoyed it enough for them to make a sequel. But
will Megan 2 be just as good?
I hope everyone, likes it. That's all I can say about it.
I do too.
I'm not going to watch it, but whatever.
No, I do too. And look, I don't mean to, again, I tend to go on my little rants and I'm not saying it's all bad. It's just, and like I said, it's not that you can't be younger and appreciate on the same levels, but I just find that the older we get, because we share a lot of these common sort of feelings that, it's like, oh man, like, do we need to, yes, we do, because it made a lot of money. Yes, we do, and listen, I mean, if I was in a big film that made $200 million on a $2 million budget or whatever it was, and they asked me to come back, I'd be going back, or I'd be, I mean, I get it. I just wish there was more. Don't rut. I'm glad Megan, again, I haven't seen Megan, but I'm glad it's not coming out for a couple of more years. I think it's 2025, I think, Megan 2. And maybe that'll give them time to, figure it out and, don't rush things into production. And is there more story to tell? But I understand it. As long as we continue to watch it and see it, they will continue to make it. The second we don't, they stop. And they don't care. Yeah. They don't care. They really don't. I mean, look, the Halloween franchise has been... I know I'm talking Halloween, but it's a good example. The Halloween franchise storylines have been retconned several times. Do they care? Do they fucking care? Did Blumhouse care to all you Resurrection fans? No. They don't care. I don't give a shit. It's business, baby. It wasn't making money. It's not making money. And if it's not making money, they don't make it. That's just what it is. Anyway, but let's get off this long tangent about The Nun. But it's just these ideas of building and drawing it. I don't think The Conjuring, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think The Conjuring story warrants a universe. No. Do you know what I mean?
Like I said, I tried to watch The Nun today because I knew we were going to do this show tonight, and I got 20 minutes into it. I'm like, this is boring. And I shut it off.
It's because the heart, and you've often talked about this, the heart, and it's clearly defined, the heart of the Conjuring story and series is Ed and Lorraine Warren, and how Patrick Wilson and Farmiga, whatever her name is there.
Vera
Farmiga. Their relationship, I mean, they're terrific actors. They sell it. I buy it. I believe their love for each other. And that's the heart of the Conjuring story. You remove them from the story, even if they're on the peripheral, they show up in like a scene or, whatever. It loses something. The Conjuring doesn't need to be a cinematic universe. No. You know what I mean? No. I don't think it's...
Like I said, the only movie, I mean, for me, if you're going to watch any of the movies in this whole universe, whatever, Conjuring 2, and Annabelle Comes Home. Those are, Conjuring is fucking amazing. Conjuring 2, it's fun. I don't dislike it. I can watch it. And like I said, for a good, fun popcorn movie, Annabelle Comes Home is great, because if you don't go into that taking it seriously and you understand as you watch it from the filmmaker's perspective, like, I see what you did there. Because there's a bit of an 80s nostalgia to it with the whole babysitting vibe, and whatnot.
Is that the movie directed? Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, is Annabelle Comes Home the one that was directed by David Sandberg?
I don't know. Probably. You might be right.
Let me see.
But anyways, the whole point of it, when was the last time you saw an adventure type babysitting movie, especially wrapped in the horror universe? So I saw what they were doing with that film. So when I watched it, I was like, all right, this is fun. This is a good, entertaining popcorn movie. Creation is good. It's just not aging well for me anymore. Like, I liked it when it first came out. But I tried watching it again, actually not that long ago. And I was just like, I got about halfway into it and I'm like, I'm good. Like, I was just like, It
doesn't have the rewatch value that the first two Conjuring films have.
Correct. And like I said, I can get into a fun Annabelle Comes Home
movie
night.
Would you say, does Annabelle Comes Home from a certain point of view, although I guess it would be a prequel, actually, because it happens before the events of the first Conjuring, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's a pet peeve of mine too. I will say this: it is a pet peeve of. Well, it depends. It depends.
Well, no, because the parent farmhouse is in there. So no, it's not a prequel to the Conjuring, because you see the painting that Ed draws. So it's not a prequel.
So it's not. I'm
sorry. I'm wrong. On
okay, it's not. Okay,
so a prequel.
Does Annabelle Comes Home, from a certain point of view, that's right, we're Obi-Wan Kenobiing it. From a certain point of view, does Annabelle Comes Home work as The Conjuring 3?
No, I would say if you're going to do a standalone, that's the one movie you can get away with as a standalone movie with because of the popularity of the doll and everything.
It's a creepy looking doll.
They even show the real doll in that film. And Annabelle Comes Home. I believe I can't remember if it's at the beginning of the movie. It's been a minute since I watched it. But anyways, because the way the movie is structured as a fun popcorn film, don't take it seriously, adventures in babysitting, type vibe, the adults are removed from the equation. Like I said, very throwback to the 80s, where it's all focused on the teenagers and the teenagers who are in trouble and whatnot. Haven't seen a movie like that in a long time. They did a really good job with it. If you're going into it taking it seriously, then no, you're not gonna like it. If you're you know what I mean, if you're looking for what they did in the first Conjuring, no, that's not the way Annabelle Comes Home is set up for. That's not what the movie's structured around. If you take it for, like I said, fun, hanging out,
cool,
whatever, then you can have a good time with it. Okay,
cool. Well, The Nun 2 is coming out this year at some point, but beyond that, I think and then there's that other, what's that other movie that's tied to the Conjuring universe? Something like something La Llorona or something, or
is that tied?
Yeah, it is. Hang on a sec here. The Conjuring universe. So let me just do the Conjuring universe.
I'm not gonna go see The Nun 2.
So the Conjuring universe, in terms of films, are The Conjuring. This looks like it's in order, by the way. In terms of, it's order of release, excuse me. Order of release.
Now, the first Annabelle movie happened. That's a prequel to, that's what you probably are thinking of.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
That's the prequel to The Conjuring.
Well, we've got The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, that's the David Sandberg one. Yeah. The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona. The Curse of La Llorona.
My Sharona.
Yeah, that's a great song, by the way. That's a fucking awesome song.
My Bologna.
Yeah, Weird Al. And then Annabelle Comes Home and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So again, the films that are the Conjuring universe, as of right now, are The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona, Annabelle Comes Home, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and then, of course, the very soon-to-be-released The Nun 2. So you're looking at like 8 or 9 movies there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 films, if you include The Nun 2. Yeah. I look at this and I think, I would not have even bothered with The Nun 2, but why? Because The Nun made boatloads of money at the box office. That's why they're doing The Nun 2.
It's a character that people like. People like the Valak character.
Of course. And it is a creepy looking character. I'm not knocking it. I'm just thinking about, I just don't think the stuff is necessary. But what is necessary in show business? Nothing. So, but I will say that, where do we go from here? Like, I mean, I know that the Conjuring 3 is, I think, in development.
Conjuring 4?
4, excuse me. The Conjuring 4 says here.
Is that the werewolf one?
I don't know. So here's what we got. Now, this is Wikipedia. It says The Conjuring 4 to be announced in October 2022, so just a couple of months ago. It was announced that a sequel to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, was in development. Now, it's important that people understand that you know, I would imagine that because The Conjuring is so popular that we will get a Conjuring 4, but it's important to always remember that when a movie is in development, that doesn't mean that the movie's been greenlit yet. That means that it is in development and it is working towards hopefully being greenlit to then move into pre-production. But with a film like The Conjuring, I mean, I have no doubt that it probably will, but so as of right now, it's in development. David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. Wow, that's a long name. Will serve as screenwriter, while James Wan and Peter Safran will serve as producers, with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in early negotiations to reprise their roles from the previous films. I'm sure they will.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not replacing those two, because if you do, you've just killed your franchise.
Yeah. Oh, and then it says here, Wan later confirmed that Wilson and Farmiga will reprise their roles. So, and that's all we have. So in terms of The Conjuring 4 and what the story will be, where it will go, what's it going to be all about? What now? What do we do now?
In reality, first of all, the two actors, and I know Patrick Wilson takes very good care of himself. He's really hardcore into working out and shit, and Vera obviously looks great too.
Yep.
I mean, these two could be doing this for a
He's got Insidious 5 coming out. Patrick Wilson's directorial debut.
Directorial debut. So
Rose Byrne.
These two could be playing Ed and Lorraine for years to come, and really, it is their bread and butter, obviously. It is what I think. I mean, look, I know Vera works. So that woman's like in everything. Like all of a sudden she's popping up in a Marvel thing, and then she's popping up over here. Like that she's just working, you know, and I don't watch everything that she does. But those, as far as character goes, you know, especially maybe for Patrick Wilson, maybe Vera gets a little bit more notoriety for some other stuff. But as far as for him, that's a big character for him, you know, and certainly something that maybe back off for a few years and then come back and revisit it again and bring some new life. And it's, again, they're characters. It's not like doing a Jason movie or a Michael movie or a Freddy movie. These are characters that they can come back to every 5 years or so and do a new movie and whatnot. If they're both feeling like, you know what, yeah, it's time, let's do another one. So there is no, I think with there is no end game. What I would do is dive into the archives of Ed and Lorraine Warren, get deep into, they got some shit that happened in Japan, you know what I mean? Like maybe tackle in, you know, that story, or they got the werewolf story. I'm kind of a little hesitant about, like, I don't want to get too far off the tracks with it. But the thing is that Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were paranormal investigators. So if you're going to complain like it's the same stuff, it's exorcism, it's haunting, it's just, that's predominantly what they did. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to put these two characters in a fucking Friday the 13th movie. You know what I mean? I mean, that would be like, Ed, right? You know what I mean? You're not going to put them in some dumb shit like that. So yes, you're going to get paranormal. You're going to get ghosts. You're going to get exorcisms, because this is what they did.
Well, it's paranormal, folks.
Right. So I think that's the thing that people need to take into consideration too when they complain like it's just the same stuff. Well, that's what they fucking did. That was their livelihood. And they built themselves a great life out of it. Shit. I mean, you know, you get to do what you love to do and make a living out of it and provide for your family. I mean, fuck, there's nothing better than that out there. Yeah. So, you know, I would just dive deep into everything they did, but let's get back on track to what The Conjuring did, the first one. You know what I mean? Like, let's not worry about sensationalizing and try to get the, like, you know, contortionist fucking shock factor. Like, if you're going to do that, make it a payoff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you know, let's get back to, maybe it doesn't have to be a slow burn. Maybe it's a medium pace burn. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe not entirely like The Conjuring, where everything's going to be paid off at the end, but maybe you do have shit happening at the beginning of the second act, as well as the third act. You know what I mean? But get back on track to what made The Conjuring so good. That's, I think, the first step that they need to do. You know, when whatever they decide to do for the next movie, that you know, because you're not going to do, although it would be cool, I'm not going to lie, you're not going to do something like one of my favorites, and we never talk about these movies that much on here, maybe we should do a show one time on it. I would say my favorite ghost haunting type movies are the first three Paranormal Activity movies. I love those movies. I love the cheapness of that, the real,
well, it feels real,
the real look.
Yeah.
Real. I just watched on Paramount Plus, because I just became a subscription to them. I just watched a documentary on how they did a lot of that shit. And the behind the scenes was really fascinating and very cool. Because I was always curious how they did certain things in the movie. And it was really cool to see how they developed that story and brought it to life. I don't think you could do a Conjuring movie, not like found footage, but I mean, where I mean, I guess you could, in a way. You could give it a Paranormal Activity vibe, but like Hollywoodized, meaning like, okay, so if you remember in Paranormal Activity 2, where Christy is getting dragged down the stairs and shit, like, that's one of my fucking favorite. That's one of my favorite scenes ever filmed in in a paranormal type movie. Like,
yeah, it looks fantastic.
It was so well done.
If they were able to achieve, if found footage was a thing in the 70s and Paranormal Activity came out in the 70s, would have like, nowadays
blew people's heads off.
It's so sad that we live in a world now where people watch that and go, whatever. You know, because whatever. You know, I mean, if that had fucking come out in 1975, that kind of, you know what I mean? Oh my God, would have been the scariest movie ever made.
If you remember the Paranormal Activity films,
to be fair, I've only seen the first two,
right?
I think. Yeah, two.
You haven't seen the third one with the little kids?
No.
That one's a good one. It's set in the 80s too. It's pretty good.
I saw the second one in the theater, actually.
I love the second one. Here's a little fun fact, because I just watched that documentary. Do you remember the scene in Paranormal Activity 2 where the three of them are standing by the pool, and because this is the day after they saw the little device crawl out of the pool, and then the thing comes flying out of the pool?
I think
and he's like,
yes,
I told you. Remember that?
Yes.
Fun fact. Do you know who threw that shit out of the fucking water in the pool?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jason Blum.
Jason Blum did?
They were on a timeline. They were trying to figure out different things to make the scene work.
Yep.
And he says in the documentary, he's like, give me this fucking thing. I'm going to go underwater and I'm going to throw it out, and that's it. And we're fucking done and we're moving on.
I'm going to go underwater and I'm going to do it. Let's just do it right now. And
that's what they did. But you could bring some of that vibe, some of the supernatural vibes that they did in Paranormal Activity, where you don't see the ghost, but you hear it through the sound, the subtle sound design,
right? And
then you see, like, you know, the pantry shit is flying all over the place when Christy's sitting in the room by herself. You know, some of those little things that happen. You could bring a little bit of that element, because sometimes you don't need to go over the top on your scare. The less is always more, as they say. You know what I mean? You can dial it down and bring it back to the simplicity. Yes, you can have your payoff like you had at the end of the first film, but, you know, and don't rely on the screaming sound designs for a jump scare either. Like, make your scares in a Conjuring film earned. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and make it
like in the first one, like, that's why I went back and watched it immediately afterwards, because every scare. That was probably also the last time where I watched the film that I had a genuine jump scare. You know what I mean? Like, damn. And it was earned, because that's the way Juan did it. That's what they need to get back to doing.
And stylistically, you know, when you're making a paranormal horror movie or a haunting or a demon possession, look, there's always going to be that moment in the script where things are likely going to get sensational or whatever. The studio would probably recommend it because obviously it's a payoff. But nothing. The reason why the first couple of Paranormal Activity movies, at the very least, and much of the first Conjuring, maybe even the first Insidious.
Yeah, anything after the third Paranormal, it gets ridiculous, but like beyond ridiculous.
We've seen, but take those films even out of the equation. We've seen movies like, you know, whether they're hauntings or ghosts or, you know, whatever the case is. Some of them might be foreign films, whatever. You know, The Orphanage, actually, the foreign film The Orphanage is a great example of this. But there's lots
I've seen that on one of my either HBO Max or maybe Paramount Plus. Is it good?
I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, it is good. I think it's subtitled, but it's very good. But whenever, and I think viewers time and time again have shown that this is the case. Whenever you see a movie, a horror movie in this subgenre, the ghost, paranormal, whatever, that is more nuanced and more subtle and sort of, you know, builds, it feels more real. It feels more plausible. It feels like it's actually happening, you know, or whatever the case is. The best found footage movies you could do, if you're a found footage horror movie maker, or if you're a found footage fan, the best found footage horror movie you could do is one that is not, I mean, that's why, like, I get you need to entertain, I get that, but is to be more subtle with the scares and more realistic with the scares. It's probably the only reason why the Blair Witch Project became the gigantic success it was, because it felt real. It felt like it was actually happening.
Although it's not the first found footage, it's definitely the grandmom. It's the grandmama or granddaddy of them all. It's what really it put found footage on the map. It made people go, oh shit, we could do this.
It did. And you don't have to, like, this relates to stuff that's not found footage either, or two. Like, I mean, it's just, if you're making, and again, it depends on the subgenre. If you're making a slasher movie, this doesn't apply. You know, if you're making, like, it all depends, but I really like horror movies, you know, that are more psychological, because they are, you know, if you drip feed and you build it, it's eerier, it's creepier, it keeps me on the edge of my seat. You know, it's better than peaking in the first 5 minutes. And now I'm just watching. Now I'm not scared. I'm not spooked out. I'm just watching the movie go through the motions, you know, and that's what I felt with The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do. It's not a bad movie. It's just that you showed everything. You showed how the magic is done in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So now when anything happens in the rest of the movie, you know, or any sort of effects or whatever, I'm not like, oh, no, I'm just like, yeah, okay. You know, here we are, you know, because you've already showed me how this is, you know, you've done that already. Right. I would like to see a Conjuring 4. This is what I'd like to see. You say that the Ed and Lorraine Rolodex, their files run deep, and they even have some stuff in Japan.
They got some crazy ass stories. Man.
I would say this. I would say find
and remove fucking Annabelle. We don't need Annabelle in every single one of these films. Like, I get the popularity of the doll, but my God, it's just like there's so overkill. Much. It's way overkill with that doll. It's just like,
what about, imagine this. And again, in a perfect world, right? It's not going to happen. But imagine they go into the Ed and Lorraine files and they find a really, really creepy, eerie, unsettling story from Japan.
Yeah.
They go and they hire a Japanese horror director to direct the movie. And you set it in Japan.
Absolutely.
And you shoot on location in Japan with with a Japanese horror. Now again, this in and of itself doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. I'm just trying to think of something, you know,
you're trying to breathe new life.
Trying to breathe new life into it. So hire a Japanese horror director from Japan who's made some really chilling Japanese horror movies as of late, right? Like if this was 20 years ago, we'd be hiring the guy that that made the Japanese Ringu, or Ring, like whatever it was, right? Or The Grudge, right? Because those two movies were initially Japanese horror films, even though actually The American Ring is actually very good. Surprisingly, it's one of my favorites.
I love The Ring.
It's fantastic.
I love The Ring.
It's better than it had every right to be, because usually American interpretations of foreign films are not
I will
that
say
good.
this, in the last
it's fantastic.
21 years, whatever, 20 plus years. Okay. Since 2000, The Ring is one of the best horror movies ever released.
Hands down.
Since 2000.
Hands down. The Ring 2, on the other hand.
Yeah, it's a shit show. I got about, I finally
Polar
started.
opposite.
That's on HBO Max, and I got about 35 minutes into it. And even though Naomi Watts it's her name, right? Naomi Watts is the lead?
Yep.
Yeah. I got about like maybe halfway into it, and I was like, girl, what are you doing?
I know.
Like,
CGI
so
deer. What's going
bad.
on?
Like,
But that's what I would do. I would do my research, find out, what's hot right now. What is hot right now in the world of Japanese horror? What's hot right now? And I would do that. I would find that out. And then I would look to see, I might watch like a really great Japanese horror film. I'm like, wow, that was fucking great. Who directed that? And make the offer and be like, hey, you want to, and that doesn't mean they're going to, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I would explore that. Set it in Japan. Don't shoot it in the States. Go to Japan, spend the money, go to Japan, shoot it there, shoot it on location, have Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're coming into Tokyo, or they're coming into some little Japanese town, whatever, where there's this creepy, eerie, unsettling story. Make it more focused. Don't make it an adventure where they're driving around all over fucking Japan and in the streets of Tokyo. Don't do that. Make it more focused and central to a little town in Japan, or a little home in Japan, or where there's this eerie story. There's something, I don't know what it is in there that they have, but something like that. And then
there's
hire
a lot. There's so much in there.
And then hire one
stuff.
Hire one of Japan's best horror directors working right now. That's what I would do. And maybe that's the whoa, and make a like that's, I don't know. I'd be curious to see that. That would get me excited.
I'd be down.
Yeah. I'd be totally down with that. I think that would be interesting. I mean, again, I don't know if they would do that. But I don't want to see another, like, for me, The Devil Made Me Do It was sort of that tipping point where it's like, and now we're here with this franchise. Right. We're just at another installment, and I'm sure The Nun 2 will just be, fine, a lot of jump scares, and then by the end of the movie, you're like, oh, okay, that's what I don't know. I sound like such a dick, and I don't mean to sound like a dick. I don't know. I guess like I said, the older we get, the more I'm just like, why does everything have to be again, I mean, I've answered my own fucking question. I understand why. It's because The Nun made over, $200 million at the box office, whatever. What the fuck did The Nun make? Let me just see here. The Nun was insane. The first Nun, where are we here? The first Nun made at the worldwide box, holy shit, made $365.6 million in a $22 million budget. Yeah.
There's your answer.
There's the answer there, folks. I mean, Jesus Christ.
There's obviously a fan base. People want to see it. So
more than $250 million.
I'm not going to see it, so it takes a lot from me. Like you were saying, like now that we're older, and it whatever, our tastes change,
that's all it is.
We're desensitized to this stuff. But like, what was the movie here? People were recommending me to watch, and I lasted maybe again a half hour into it before I literally was falling asleep. Sick. That movie's Sick on Peacock. I mean, I know it's got great reviews. People love it, but just it didn't keep my attention. Right. I didn't really care about any of the actors and the story arc, and it was just, I've seen it. I mean, I've been there. I've done this. I've seen it. It's whatever.
I haven't seen it yet, but
I don't know. Again, I think it's just our ages now. It's like we're getting to different ages, and a lot, and to be fair, a lot of horror movies, right? The demographic for horror movies are,
you know, that 18 to 30, right? You know what I mean? Like the young, you know, the teenagers, I mean, that is who, largely, generally speaking, that's who horror movies generally are geared towards. And so it makes sense that as we're, you know, 7 years or soon to be 6 years away from 50, you know,
that's what I'm saying.
Where we're kind of
I think we'll always have a love for the
sure.
icon characters like Michael and Freddy and Jason,
because we grew up with
stuff.
them. Yeah.
Right. But anything new, it's just like, it's not keeping my attention span unless it's a movie like Smile. I did enjoy that.
Have you seen The Ritual? From 2017.
No, you told me about that. I know. I'll get to that. It Follows. Yeah. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yep.
A lot. You know, so it's movies like that. I tend to that are more dealing with where you got to think a little bit more as you're watching it. You know what I mean? Get Out was okay. You know what I mean?
Yep. I liked Get Out better than Us.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I like to Get Out better than Us. So I think as we get older, our tastes we evolve more with it. And
I think it's just kind of like a been there, done that, and we need to be challenged more. You know, our horror stimulus. You know, we need to be stimulated in different ways. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy, you know, the old school
like I'm
slashers.
Enjoy Scream when it comes out here.
Of course, there's nothing absolutely, but it's. You know, it is what it is, right? But with something new, you know, I do like, that's why I did like Barbarian. I did. However,
I liked Barbarian.
I did too. Although I would have loved to have seen a movie that was just all I did like it, but I would have loved to have seen like the first 15 minutes of that film where it's like, is he or isn't he? Will they or won't they? Is he like, you know what I mean? How it's like, is he like a creepy guy or is he not? Or what's going on? I would have loved to have seen like a little 90-minute thriller just with those two. And, and it's like, and he seems like this nice guy, but maybe he's not. And she goes into the city for a job interview and she comes back and he's there. And like, you know what I mean? But it's, I don't know, like you could have made a real creepy thriller around that.
X and Pearl. I enjoyed those, you know, it was, you know, it's slasher, but there's a bit more depth to the stories. You know what I mean? It's not just straight up slasher, but it is for sure a slasher. I actually think I like Pearl a little bit more than I did X.
Yeah, I haven't seen Pearl yet. I liked X, but I didn't. I think X is a little overrated. But certainly I didn't not like it. You know, but you know what? It's just different strokes for different folks. I mean, it's nothing, you know, we can get very opinionated and hot here on the show, but you know, we're not saying that you're an idiot if you like what we don't like. I mean, there's lots of things that we like that you guys don't like. And that's what makes it fun, right? That's what makes it fun. We got to see
an over the top, although I can't even imagine how you can get more over the top than the first one.
For a minute, I thought you were talking about the Sylvester Stallone movie, Over the Top.
No, I was saying like, I can't, it's insane it, but Damien managed to get over the top again. We got to see Art the Clown,
Terrifier 2, which was
so that was fun. You know,
good on
them.
Like it's good on them. I think it's
way
true.
Over the top, but
sure.
You know.
I mean, but see, there's something. It's not my kind of horror movie, but I appreciate the hustle, and I know that a lot of people love it, and a lot of people loved it. You know, love that kind of a horror movie, and I think it's great what it's done. You know, it might not be my kind of horror movie, but the fact that it did well at the box office based on its budget, you know, is great for horror. It's great for
the question
indie horror.
Is the lifespan of Art the Clown? Is he going to be around 20 years from now like Michael will still be?
Let's just say this. I think Damien is going to, one of two things is either going to, and I'm purely speculating. Damien recently signed a contract with WME, I believe, which is William Morris Endeavor. And that's one of the big Hollywood agencies. They represent some of the big A-list talent, whether it's actors, directors, writers, singers, producers, whatever. And so that's great. Good on him. That's amazing. That's fantastic. So now he's got representation, which is fantastic because he didn't before. I think Damien is likely to do Terrifier 3. I think he's likely to keep it small.
He's doing a 2-parter with it too, and I think that's it.
Yes, I think he's got enough to do. He might split it into 3 and 4 or something to that degree. Now, whether he will crowdfund again or whether he won't need to crowdfund because an independent production company will come into the fold and then be able to sort of back him with the money. I would be surprised if he's crowdfunding again for Terrifier 3/4. I think he will probably have some outside help and he won't need to do that. But nonetheless, keeping it low budget, keeping it small, I think is important. I think if Art the Clown becomes too polished and too Hollywood, I think it loses the gritty, exploitative, splatter 70s, old school, independent, low budget vibe, which is part of the charm and part of the appeal for the Terrifier brand and the DNA of Terrifier. I suspect that he will do that because he wants to finish it. But then he'll go off and he'll be directing who knows what. He's got good rep now, man. He's got good rep. Now that doesn't mean he's going to go off and have a flourishing career. There's lots of people that are repped that aren't working, but certainly he's in good hands. And good on them, man. I think it's fan-fucking-tastic. It's great. For sure. Absolutely great. All right, should we move over to the chat and see what everybody's doing? A couple of super chats did come in. If you're watching after the fact, comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on the Conjuring universe, your thoughts on the things we had to say here today, and your thoughts on where Tony and I maybe think it should go. Let us know your thoughts. All right, let me just go over to a couple. I think it was just 2 that came in, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go grab them.
I thought there was like 3 or 4.
Oh, you might be right. Let's see here. There's 3. You're right. There were 3. The first one comes in from Josh McKenna that sends in $9.99 and says, What Lies Beneath is my favorite Harrison Ford movie because of his role reversal. Do you have any movie recommendations where an actor plays against type? That's a great question, Josh. And first of all, yes, Harrison Ford, of course, being my favorite actor, but Harrison Ford, that's a great movie. What Lies Beneath is a fantastic film, and in large part because Harrison Ford ends up being the villain. Any movies with actors that play against type? Another good one, Unfaithful with Diane Lane. Yes, I could see that.
And Richard Gere. Yeah, Richard Gere is also playing sort of against type as well. He's not the heartthrob main, you know what I mean? Like
right. Yeah, because I was just going to say there's 2 ways we can define that, right? We can define it where there's somebody in a movie like Ford in What Lies Beneath where there's a twist and he turns out to be a bad guy. So that's playing against type, but you don't realize that till like the last, the end of the movie where the big twist happens. Or you could define it as playing against type, like you just said, where you have Richard Gere, he's... The whole movie, he's not playing that Richard Gere suave kind of guy, and Diane Lane is quite, right. Yeah. That's so there's quite the So there are a couple of ways.
Fun to watch in that movie.
There are indeed a couple of people or a couple of ways to define it. Trying to think what else would be Evil Alex type. Says Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems. Yeah, I could see that.
But the thing with Adam Sandler, since
he has done
a lot of drama movies. His first one there that the guy took a chance with him on
was it Spanglish?
Back. No, this is
was he in that Spanglish?
I can't remember now. Hold on.
Was it the 90s? Early 2000s?
Early 2000.
I thought it was Spanglish.
I think it was. No.
Okay.
The one that really, I think, in my opinion anyways, that really everyone kind of was like, oh, fuck.
Well, I mean, you can look at Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or even Jim Carrey in The Truman Show. I mean, even that. I mean, again, it's older, but he's a little funny in that movie, but he's certainly not the Jim Carrey we knew. Oh, Punch Drunk Love. Okay,
that came out before Spanglish. That was in 2002. That's where because at that point you got to remember in 2002.
Yeah.
Up until that point,
Spanglish was like 04 or something.
Yeah, Adam Sandler was known for Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore,
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy, that kind of
Water Boy,
that goofy kind of stereotype character comedy. So when that guy, the director, gave him a shot at Punch Drunk Love, and when you watch that movie, even when I did, I was like, whoa, dude's got some acting chops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's really fucking good.
That's a good one. But there's, I mean, there are lots. I mean, you can also Google it too and see what other ones stand out. But it's hard to trying to think off the top of my head. But that is a good one. Yeah, I mean, hey, here's one. There's a couple of Robin Williams ones because he's a great dramatic. I was just gonna say, there's a couple of Robin Williams films that you could point to for this because he is a great dramatic actor. But the two that I would point to that are fantastic, where Robin Williams plays against type, are 1 Hour Photo, which he's fucking creepy as all hell in, and also Awakenings with Robert De Niro.
Yes.
In the late 80s. That is a fantastic film. And again, Robin Williams playing, especially back then, because he was, the goofy guy, right? Mork and Mindy. And even, I wouldn't put this in this category as playing against type, but the film that he's probably, or one of them that he's best known for, of course, which is Good Morning Vietnam.
Good morning.
Of course, there's a humorous, funny angle to him, but that movie has got a lot of heart and drama as well. And he was, it's so tragic what happened to him. And it's extra tragic because he took his own life, and I understand that he apparently was very sick and dementia was beginning to sort of, was on the horizon for him, apparently. And I get that, but it's just so sad that he took his life. He was tremendous. So Robin Williams' 1 Hour Photo is, if you've never seen it and you're used to happy-go-lucky, funny Robin Williams, watch that one. That'll blow your fucking mind.
That'll blow you.
100%. 100%. Resident Dr. Evil says Robin Williams in What Dreams May Come. That's a good movie too. That's a movie that took me 3 times to watch. For whatever reason, when I tried to watch it in the 90s, I didn't, and it's my kind of movie, and I'm like, I couldn't. And then I tried to watch it again like 10 years ago, and I don't know, I just wasn't liking it. And then I finally watched it a couple years ago, and I got through it, and I liked it.
Here's another one. It's against type because at the time, you have to think of the time in the early 90s, he was a heartthrob. I mean, that's just who he was. Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
He plays the Arnie character.
Yeah.
That is right there. You begin to see this kid. He's got some serious acting chops because at that time he was Romeo. You know what I mean? He was the heartthrob, Well,
I think that was before Romeo.
It was before, but even still, he was already coming up.
Yeah, Team Beat and all that kind of stuff.
Team Beat and all that stuff like that. So when he's playing a character like that in a movie, which is very against type of being the heartthrob, again, I'm putting it in the time. Now we know who he is as an actor for what he's done over the last 30 years.
Right.
It's crazy to say that, right?
I know.
30 years.
It's insane. And he's finally starting to look his age.
Right? He's finally starting to age because he keeps dating 22-year-olds.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Shit. I know. Okay. Edward Nito sends in $5. Says, "Sup, my dudes? I didn't know the first Conjuring was rated R until after I watched it. Is it true that the movies was rated R because it's too scary for PG-13? Well, there's a variety of reasons why a movie can be rated R. Language is one. Obviously, you drop a couple of that. If the F word makes its way into a movie, I think it depends on how it's used or how many times. But if the F word makes its way in, that'll get you an R rating. Boobies will get you an R rating. And yes, excessive violence and extreme imagery can, what the MPA deems as sort of too scary can. I don't know why it did, but certainly I could believe it, I guess. I'd have to find out if it was R here. I wonder if it was R here or not. I'm not sure.
Probably
I think the first Insidious, if I'm not mistaken, was PG-13, I think, which makes sense. But yeah, there's a variety. I don't know off the top of my head why. It was probably just for the frightening imagery. Were there a couple of bombs in The Conjuring? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back.
I don't think there's too much swearing. Maybe there was. It could have been. I don't know.
I have to go back and watch. Yeah. And then Josh McKenna follows up with another $4.99 and says, look up Sherry Papini. She went for a Sherry baby. Sherry baby, Sherry.
Some good old Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons.
Come out tonight. Ooh, Sherry. Walk like a man. What's the other one? They've done so great. I fucking love the Four Seasons.
Big Girls Don't Cry. Yeah, Sherry, Big Girls Don't Cry, Walk Like a Man. Yep. December 1963. What a night.
What
and then, of course,
night.
Frankie Valli had some hit. Can't Take My Eyes Off of You.
Yep.
Everybody. Once I say that, they're like, I wrote 10 things I hate about you.
No.
Because of Heath Ledger's. And that's an iconic performance. You can't, as far as like when your mind thinks of something in pop culture, that's what I mean by iconic.
Yeah,
it's iconic
I get it.
in pop culture for what he did in that scene with Julia Stiles. It's a cute scene. I mean, I don't hate the movie. I didn't really like 10 Things I Hate About You at the time when it came out, but it's one of those movies now that if I do watch, I'm like, oh, the 90s, how I miss you.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I get you. But Josh says, look up Sherry Papini. She went for a jog in 2016 and didn't return home. That's all I'm telling you. It's up your alley, Dave. Well, thank you very much for the recommendation, Josh. I do like watching that true crime stuff. So I will look up. I have a couple other things I have to look up too. In that regard.
Unfortunately, nowadays it's getting worse and worse to a point where you never want to go out, or especially if you're a female. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying that in a sexist way either, because it can happen to a guy. But you can't go out anywhere alone. You can't go out for a jog. because some stupid shit could happen to you.
So it's especially if you're a woman.
Yeah, more so if you're a woman than you are a guy.
100%. 100%.
So I always tell like females, friends of mine or whatever, it's like, look, if you go out anywhere, make sure you're always with someone.
That's it.
What I mean,
yep.
Safer in numbers.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, especially.
For sure. Cody Snyder, one of our great mods. Cody Snyder says, Dave, have you seen the video of Cameron walking out of the premiere, James Cameron, walking out of the premiere of Avatar 2, and everyone boos and cusses at him because he won't sign autographs? He puts his window down and gives him the finger. I have seen that. I don't think it's the premiere. It's not the Hollywood premiere because James Cameron had COVID and couldn't attend. I think I thought he was coming out of his hotel and he was going somewhere. Maybe he was going to but he looked like he was dressed in like cash. Like I don't know where that was, but yes, I have seen that. I look, James Cameron is known to be, a
douche.
Well, no, but hang on. I'm actually going to defend him because yes, he can be a bit, he's got a bit of a personality to him, let's say. But I think it's important for people to remember that although there might have been a couple of people there that maybe were hanging out, genuinely wanting his autograph, these are hustlers. These are people that make their living by getting celebrities to sign and you can YouTube this shit. You can watch all sorts of celebrities run into these kinds of people and tell them to fuck off. I mean, not necessarily like that, but they I mean, I think Harrison Ford, Tom Hanks, there's a lot of these guys are like, yeah, no, because what they're going to do is they're going to get you to say, like, oh, Mr. Ford, can you sign my thing? And he's going to sign it and they're going to go home and pop it on eBay for $5,000. And they're just like, you're not a kid that wants my autograph. You're not. Sorry?
Who's worse in this equation? The people who get the autographs or the idiots who buy the autographs?
Well, I guess it would depend the price point, right? It would depend on the price point. Yeah, it would depend on the price point. But I think, Cameron, so it's a combination, right? You take Cameron's natural personality, right? He's James Cameron. He's not shy to tell you how he feels, right? And then you put that kind of personality in a situation where he's walking out of a hotel or a premiere or wherever he was, and there's a bunch of paparazzi out there wanting, oh, Mr. Cameron, can you sign my photo? He's like, yeah, in his head, he's thinking, yeah, get the fuck out of here. I'm not, it's not like it's a bunch of kids or he's at like an event where, like at a con, or at a convention, it's that these are hustlers. That's what they do. That's how they make their living. It's how they make them. That's why they have like 15 of them. And they're like, yeah, can you sign this one? And can you sign this one? And can you sign that? It's like, you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying everybody there was like that. I don't know, but I can guarantee you, I can guarantee you those people going, they're there and they got the, like, they're, Mr. Cameron, and they're like, oh, fuck you, Mr. Cameron. It's like, what do you mean, fuck you? You're not taking that home and framing it and putting it on your wall or wrapping it as a Christmas gift and giving it to your, your nephew, Bobby. That's not what you're doing. You're taking that shit home and you're fucking making money off of it. And he's like, no. He's like, no.
I have, and I can't even take credit for this because my brother is the one who got it for me. I'm not a big autograph person. I don't, right. I don't care. I don't go seeking it, and I'm not going to go to these conventions and, like, I'd rather meet the person, shake hands and say, hey, I loved you in whatever movie. And that's it. But my brother got me that for my birthday, which is the Heather Langenkamp and
Robert Englund. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, that's awesome.
The Nancy scene. My brother got that for me. He stood in line. He paid whatever he had to pay. I don't know if there's a fee. I don't know. I don't go to these things, so I don't know if you have to pay.
There'd be a fee.
That.
Yep.
So whatever it is, but he did that for me, that which was a cool gift. Because I don't, like I said, I don't want to deal with people.
No, it is cool, man. Absolutely cool.
But that's it. The autograph, like someone's signature, like. It just means I'm putting them that they have more value than me, and I just we're all the same.
Yeah, well, of course. I understand the autograph thing. I do. I get it. Obviously, things have changed over the years. I think what largely has replaced the autograph, maybe not at a convention, but certainly what has replaced the autograph in a lot of scenarios is the selfie. You get people now just wanting to get selfies, and in a lot of ways that's better than a signature on a photo. But look, James Cameron came out. He didn't swear at them. He didn't say, get the fuck out of here, you damn sons of bitches. He just didn't say anything. His Suburban was there. So
it wasn't like fans. It was like people autographed.
Well, I'm not saying that I can't say there weren't fans there, but I can tell you what I know and how it works. I can guarantee you that a lot of the people standing there were not there genuinely because they wanted his autograph to put on their wall, because there's hustlers, there's paparazzi, right? They get in there and they get all these things signed and they throw them up on eBay, and listen, he doesn't owe you anything. He doesn't owe anybody anything. It's not personal. He doesn't know you. He doesn't hate you. He just left and from what I can tell, the reason why okay, did he have to roll down his window and flip them the bird? No, he didn't have to do that. But why did he do it? Because when he didn't address them, he got into the car and you could hear them going, no, fuck you, Cameron, you fuck. So he's just like, oh yeah, well, fuck you. And he's the kind of guy that's going to go, well, fuck you too. He's that kind of guy. So yes, if it was a different celebrity, would they have said anything? No, they probably just would have got in the car and left. They don't care. But again, you combine that scenario with Cameron's personality, and he's not shy to do that. But they know this. Now that doesn't stop them from signing. I mean, you do see celebrities will come out of hotels or restaurants or whatever, and they'll sign a couple of things or whatever. But they're always doing it sort of reluctantly. But pay attention. Just YouTube videos of this, and you'll see them. You'll see these people, and they'll be there, and they'll have like a stack of 5 or 10. They're like this, whatever, and then this one, and then they'll sign. And it's like, what do you think they're doing with that? They're selling them, and they know that, and they're like, it feels. Now, listen, should it matter? Maybe not. But the celebrity, whoever it is like, you're just kind of using me. Like, I want to sign it for somebody who's going to go home and put it on their wall and cherish it for, like, that's the mindset, right? But so I'm just basically giving you money with my signature. Right. No, that's I don't want to do that.
I feel like I would just get more value, me personally anyways. That's how I would look at it. If I just, like I met Nev Campbell, shook her hand and say, "Hey, I really loved you in the Scream movies.
Of course, 100%.
Shoot the shit for 5 minutes, and nice meeting you. Enjoy. Yeah. That's it. And go on about our lives. You know what I mean? Like that's just
that's why totally. And I'm not saying that you have to be that way. I'm just saying that I think the reason why some of these celebrities that are caught off guard when they come out of hotels or restaurants by a mob and a sea of people with a stack of 8x10s, they're kind of like, this isn't for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, I'll sign one, I'll sign a couple, but I'm not going to, it's amazing how many of these, they have posters and it's like, it's ridiculous. Now, again, does that mean a fan or a couple of genuine fans are not caught up in the mix there? No, but just watch a couple of those videos, people. And you'll see that, these are hustlers. These are people that are trying to run a celebrity autograph business and they can get their signatures and sell them for a pretty penny too, depending on what they've signed. I mean, a Harrison Ford autograph on a big Han Solo poster, right on Saks Fifth Avenue. I mean, it's probably worth a lot, Sure. Anyways, it's just, it's interesting. So
it looks like because I saw some people in the chat room and I went to double check. It looks like Laverne and Shirley are reunited. Cindy Williams passed away.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, 75.
75.
Says from an illness. It doesn't say what illness, but as we were doing the show here, they just announced it. So
that's too bad. Breaking news here on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit.
Yeah, I just actually started getting into watching that show. I don't know how. I stumbled across something that had to do with A League of Their Own, and what's her name directed it?
Yes,
Laverne.
She directed Big as well.
Big as well too. What the fuck was her name?
Penny Marshall.
Penny Marshall.
Yeah, Penny Marshall. Yeah. Trivia for you: she was the first female director to have a movie cross $100 million at the box office.
Yeah,
I think that was big.
And her brother was very in as far as directing and producing shit too back in the day. Mm-hmm. Gary Marshall.
Oh yes.
So
huge.
And that's unfortunate. But as far as Laverne and Shirley goes, I never really watched it till it was just one of those things I stumbled across on YouTube, and then I went deeper into the black hole and fucking ended up on Pluto watching Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah,
I don't know how I got there, but I got there.
You know how you got there?
It's a cute show.
But you got there. I mean, yeah. No, it is. It is.
I will say this: Cindy Williams back then, she was a looker.
You know what I've been watching as of late, and I just fucking love them. I love these old shows. Is the Dick Van Dyke Show from the 60s with Mary Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler Moore, very pretty woman, but very elegance, class,
for sure. Yeah. But the show is fucking hilarious, and it holds up today. I love Dick Van Dyke. Now, there's a guy that's sort of, knocking on heaven's door. But I think he's like 96 now, and he's as sharp as anything. He's 96 and he can still do his little, Mary Poppins dance. I mean, he's unreal. He's unreal. But yeah, the Dick Van Dyke Show is awesome.
And then what I saw this morning, the first Wednesday, the original, she died.
She passed away today. And she was only 65.
A lot of fucking people are dying late, like just going.
Well, people are Getting up there. I guess if you're alive, there's always a chance you could die.
It's true. I mean, it's going to happen one way or another.
That's true. Yeah. Cody Snyder sends in $5. Thanks, Cody, again for that. Says, nah, Cameron wasn't in the wrong there. Those people were disrespectful as hell. He should have pulled out a loader from Aliens to kick their asses. Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise. You get people felt disrespected by Cameron when it's kind of like, what? Like, you didn't like. This is what blows my mind. Like, the sense of entitlement. Yes. Okay. So Cameron is a multi-millionaire. And
billionaire.
Well, no. His movies have made billions. He's not a billionaire, but he's a multi-millionaire. And
listen, he's rich enough to take fucking trips down to the real Titanic and just hang out.
100%. 100%.
He's got that kind of money to get rid of.
100%. When you look at the social structure and status of the situation, right? So you have a multi-millionaire, one of the world's most famous filmmakers, coming out, and he comes out. Who knows where he was going? Was he late? Was he not late? It doesn't matter, but who knows? He comes out. There's a mob there wanting his signature on these things that they're going to sell. And he comes out and he doesn't pay any attention to them, and he comes in. Now, the people in the line with the posters and the Sharpies are probably not multimillionaires. So there's a hierarchy of structure there. So, you think about it from that point of view, and it's like, could he have been the bigger person and given back to the little guy? And, you can look at it from that perspective, but he didn't have to. He's not obligated. This isn't a fucking convention. You've cornered him as he's coming out of his fucking hotel. You're not paying to be there. He's not, he doesn't owe you shit. He owes you nothing. If this was a convention and he was paid to be there, and you've walked up to him and he's behind a table and you paid him, $100, $40, $50, whatever it is, for his autograph on a fucking Abyss poster, and he's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. Well, yeah, then you can be like,
that's different.
That's different. Yeah. That's totally different. But it's like, so these people going, oh, come on, man, you fucking, yeah, I'd give you the bird too. What do you mean, come on? Listen, could I have stopped and whatever? Yeah, but I didn't have to. I'm not obligated to. You're not paying for this shit, so shut the fuck up and go home. You know what I mean? Like, and if I was out there, I wouldn't have yelled at him or yelled at him. I would have been like, well, too bad, but I get it, and then I walk away. Like, who cares? The sense of entitlement they have. Oh, come on, man, you could have stopped. Yeah, he could have, but you're not paying for it, so he didn't. Okay, that's life. You know what I mean? Like, so what? Anyways. Super chat from David Lee Barron sends in $4.99 and says, thoughts on all the Oscar nominations for Elvis, a two dudes Elvis show? Thoughts on Baz Luhrmann's directing sensibilities? Elvis was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, but Baz Luhrmann was not nominated for Best Director, I don't believe. Elvis was nominated for Best Picture. Austin Butler was nominated for Best Actor. I hope he wins, actually. I think it's probably going to go to Brendan Fraser for The Whale, but I'm hoping that Elvis or that Austin Butler wins. I think that'd be cool, but a two dudes Elvis show? Do you mean like watching Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, or just talking about Elvis and our love for Elvis or whatever? That might be kind of fun.
Long movie.
It is a long movie, though. You are correct. It is a long movie.
Yeah, I've literally, since 1998, I've only watched one moment of the Oscars, and that's when Leo won his for The Revenant.
Great movie.
I watched that. That's it. I don't really do award shows. I don't care for award shows. No. It doesn't do anything for me. I've said that. I'm not going to diss it. I'm not going to,
No, I get it.
I'm not going to, I know people love them. I mean, back in the day when we were in high school and younger kids, like I said, throughout the 90s, we would have like full blown Oscar parties and shit, hanging out with friends and stuff back in the day.
For sure.
And watching that stuff. But now I like I said, when I'm sorry, the couple times that he's been nominated, mm-hmm. I wouldn't watch the show. I would just wait till I kind of would time it to when the best actor would be coming up, and then I would turn it on, and if he didn't win, then I would just shut it off. And then when he finally won for Revenant, I watched his speech and shut it off. Like, so that was basically it. Like, DiCaprio will always be my favorite actor. I love his movies. Him winning an award or not getting an award never did it for me. I don't care. I'm still going to enjoy his movies. He's got a new one coming out, of course, with Martin Scorsese again, shock of shop, but a book that I just read.
Something of the Flower Moon or something?
Killer of the Flower Moons. It's a fucking phenomenal book. I love the book. Yeah, read the book if you can before the movie, but if not, you're gonna get Leo and you're gonna get Marty again together. Those two are joined at the hips with each other now.
They are.
It's gonna be a great film, and but he's just, like I said, he's one of those actors where, again, whether not just him, movies that I enjoy, they don't have to win an award to validate itself as a great movie. It's still a great movie. Elvis was a great movie. If Austin Butler doesn't win, he still gave a hell of a performance, and it doesn't change that.
100%. No, of course. Baz Luhrmann, I'm not a huge fan of Baz Luhrmann's movies. They're a little ADD for me, but I thought his style worked well for Elvis. And I actually did like The Great Gatsby. I did like The Great Gatsby. I was going to
say, I didn't like Gatsby, but I do like Romeo and Juliet with him and with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. I think that was one of his first films, wasn't it? Romeo and Juliet?
Yes. Yeah.
Moulin Rouge was all right.
Yep.
I mean, it was,
Yep. Happy Sanjo sends in $5 and says, a couple of anti-Disney channels trying to push a narrative that Disney is buying tickets to Avatar to avoid a loss. People are dumb. Yes, they are very dumb. That's
about as. Now look, I shared something in the humor of it, and even though there were questionable calls last night, when you do step back and realize how many people would need to be involved to rig an NFL game, it would be nuts. So, like, even though I know I shared what I shared last night on Facebook, in my heart of hearts, no, I don't think it's rigged. I do think there were some very bad calls made, but I don't think the calls were made to a point that the refs were getting, deep pocketed, or a payoff or whatever, or Goodell was trying to make sure that his new Wonder Boy Mahomes was going to a Super Bowl. Because again, you got to think about how many people would need to be involved in that. And it's the same thing with Disney, buying tickets for you can't, in this day and age, you can't get away with nothing. You can't.
And that is what, and I don't pretend to know everything about this, but you can't do that because it's trackable, and it would be very obvious to the objective. What is it? Is it Ramtrack? There's
something like that.
There's something where there's a separate third party that calculates, that gets the numbers from the theaters and from the studio and from the, all that, it's not like Disney isn't, you know what I mean? And so you couldn't do that. It would be very obvious that was happening, and it would be new. You can't. They're not money laundering. It's not like there's nothing. It's made $2 billion. People have to understand. And then people often say to me, well, how come, this is the stupidest thing I've seen so many people say is, well, I don't know anybody that's seen it. Well, that's because you surround yourself with people that think like you. That's because and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's because generally speaking, we surround ourselves with people that like the same things as we do. So if you hate Avatar, chances are you've surrounded yourself with people who also hate Avatar, and that's why they're not going to go see it. But there's a lot of people, and I say this with all due respect to my American brothers and sisters, it's a big fucking world out there, America, and you're not the only ones. And maybe you might not like Avatar, which also is not the case, because it's also made over 600 million domestic, although that doesn't mean that many people like the movie, it just means that many people went to see it. I've always said that, but it's made $1.5 billion worldwide. Avatar has all always been gigantic in India and, you know, overseas, and China. It's made over $230 million just in China alone. It's a worldwide thing. And then people say, well, it doesn't have a pop culture footprint. Why aren't people talking about it? Well, because it's not the same kind of thing as the MCU. It doesn't have the history. It doesn't have the comics and the graphic novels and the television shows and the pop culture zeitgeist for 50 years before the movies ever came out. It's not the same thing. It's not you cannot compare the MCU and everybody talking about it and getting excited about it to the same thing as Avatar. It's very different. Avatar is just beginning. It's just starting its journey into wherever it's going to land. In 50 years, maybe it will have graphic novels and comics and TV shows. Maybe not. I'm just, because we'll probably be way beyond TV by that point. But I'm just saying that these people that think that it's apples and apples, it's not. It's not. It's a big fucking world out there. And it's made a lot of money. Does inflation help? Sure, of course. But it's still made but there's a lot of movies that get released that don't make. Listen, we can say, well, inflation and IMAX tickets, and okay, fine. But it's not like Avatar has its own price, you know, and everybody else's price is cheaper. Top Gun Maverick's prices were the same ticket sales or the same price as Avatar's, right? So, you know, and it didn't make $2 billion. It's because more people were interested in seeing Avatar than Top Gun Maverick worldwide, generally speaking, right? Well, Avatar didn't have any competition. Yes, but it's not the first movie in history to have a run where there's no, you know, competition. Titanic also didn't have a lot of competition. The first Avatar didn't have a lot of, competition. Does that help? Absolutely, it helps, but it's still made there's a lot of movies that don't have competition that don't make $2 billion, right? You know what I mean? Well, it got released on this many screens. Yes, it did. Of course it did. Of course, like all these factors of people trying to bring the success of Titanic down. Look, there's certain things we can point to. Tickets sold and, you know, how much it made. I get all that, but it's still the 6th film in history to make $2 billion, no matter how you slice it. Whether you like it or not, people are going to see it. It's a big world. It's a big world. Your little world with you and your 5 friends and your coworkers is not the world. It's your world, but it's not the world. And there's lots of people that are talking about it. Maybe not in your world because it's your world. But it's so frustrating to me. I wish, and I say this, I don't want to sound like a dick. I just wish people were smarter. I wish people would like.
Well, that's,
you know,
I was just going to say, because someone said here in the chat room, they said, come on, Tony, not to get political, but politicians get away with everything. They don't nowadays. Here's the difference with that is that you've got people on the right side of the fence and on the left side of the fence. And if Trump gets caught doing something wrong, the people on the right are going to defend Trump to the death. If Biden or anybody on the left side gets caught doing something, even if it's something similar like documents, the left side's going to spin it and they're going to defend it. And the people on the left are going to say what Biden did was totally fine. People are getting caught with stuff. It's just if you're on whatever side, and if like you're someone
it's identity
like me,
politics, yeah,
right. And if you're someone like me who is neutral and I don't give a flying fuck about either side, and I think you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. I do.
No, I really do. I hear you. I do.
You guys,
yeah.
You're fighting over the dumbest shit over idiots who are running this country on either side of the fence. They're not getting away with it. You're just defending it for whatever they get caught doing wrong.
Yeah,
that's on either side. That's exactly. So it's not everyone's getting away with it. No one's getting away with shit. People are just defending the when they're getting caught by something, their side.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have the right attacking the left side when somebody on the left gets caught doing something, or vice versa. You're gonna have people on the left attacking someone on the right who gets caught for doing something while you got righties defending the person. That's exactly how it is now.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. There's truth in there's truth in a lot of what you say. When it comes to politics, it's about teams and colors and you know, you got to support the team. Got to support the team.
Right. Fuck your teams.
But you know, but I just want to, finish by saying, like, I understand that Avatar is not cool to a lot of people. It's not, it's new. It's not cool. It's a bunch of blue cats around. I understand. If you want to feel the way, you can feel the way, but to minimize the success out of spite and to try and create some sort of narrative that there's money laundering going on at Disney, or there's some sort of, Disney's buying up all the tickets. Yes. That's what's happening, folks. It's because $2.1 billion worth of tickets were sold. That's why, it's not because Avatar's IMAX is $50 a ticket and the regular movies are only, 20. No, it's the same price. It's the same price. When the next movie after Avatar comes into the IMAX, it'll be the same price. But has it been released on a lot of screens? Yes. Was there a lot of hype for it? Again, maybe not in your world, but it's a big world. And people have to understand that sometimes we have this narrow view because we think Twitter is real and we think the entire world is just Avatar's going to flop. Well, it didn't. It's the fourth highest grossing movie of all time. Well, it's because of this. It's the fourth highest grossing movie of all time. Okay. I mean, clearly, there's, people wanted to see it. It doesn't mean it's a good movie. It doesn't mean it's a great movie. Doesn't mean it's a phenomenal movie. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie, right? It's more neutral. It just means clearly a lot of people wanted to see it. And to be fair, you don't make $2.1 billion without a lot of repeat viewing. So there were a lot of people that went to see it again. You know what I mean? And if everybody went to see it once, it wouldn't be over $2 billion, unless, of course, you had that many people go to see it, right? But anyway, I always get hot on Avatar because I think it's not that there isn't valid arguments when we talk about, inflation and ticket prices and all that kind of stuff. Like, I can get behind that. Like, I can look at that and that's fun because there's validity there. But when we start talking about money laundering and trying to say, well, it didn't really make, no, it did. It did. Well, nobody I know is talking about it. Oh, okay.
See what you all did now? You got Dave going off on the fucking Avatar box office for a half hour.
Nobody Bob knows when to see it. So therefore, it must be a scam. Like, go home, you're drunk. Yeah. Okay, enough. I'm done.
Next question.
Edward Nito sends in $10 and says, sorry to get off topic. No, that's okay. I was watching old skate videos earlier.
I think there was another one that came in before that.
Was there? Hang on, Edward. Hold tight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. David Lee Barron was giving and this is true. Yeah. Rest in peace, Lisa Marie Presley. How true is it that the handsome young man they called the King sang gospel? How true is it that the handsome young man they called the King sang gospel music?
Well, he never liked that. That's very true. And he's Elvis is quoted, and you have to look it up. He hated being called the King, and he's always
yes.
For him, as far as a religious point, he always said Jesus was his king.
Oh, but the word hated's not in here. How true is it that the handsome young man they called the King sang gospel music? He said sang gospel music.
Well, yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying he hated being called the King. Elvis did.
Oh, he did, yeah.
He hated that. Yeah.
That was not a self placed title on him.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
He did not like that at all. He made that very clear because he was a very religious. He grew up in a black community around black churches. That's how obviously he, like, a lot of what you see in the movie is very true. That's how he was inspired by one of the, there were several things that obviously inspired Elvis.
Right.
It wasn't just one side, but he was an extremely religious person that, look, I know people get on him because he had demons. Every fucking Christian has a demon. You know what I mean? We're always fighting some type of battle.
It's Pazuzu.
It doesn't mean that makes us a bad person or
it's a gremlin.
It goes against, our religious beliefs and stuff like that. We all are fighting, whatever demons. And Elvis, unfortunately, he had he had demons, and just unfortunately couldn't shake them. But it doesn't change his love for what he believed in and God and all that stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
I hate when people chastise him because, oh, he was a junkie, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's, it's people just want to bring good stuff down. This is just an Avatar thing, but I just want to tackle this. It's 5 seconds.
No!
Tom Ungurian says it had to become the 4th highest grossing movie of all time to profit or break even. I can't remember. No, Cameron misspoke when he said that it had to become the 4th or 5th highest grossing movie of all time to break even. No. It broke even around 1.4 or 1.5 billion, which is still huge. But remember, that's not just the budget for Avatar 2. That's also because Avatar 3 has also been shot. It's in post-production right now. So essentially, it needed to make about 1.4, 1.5 billion dollars in order to break even. My understanding is on the 2 and 3. And it has done that. And so it's well into profit range now. Well into profit range, about 500 million into profit range. Anyway, okay, so that's it. As then Edward Nito says, sorry to get off topic. I was watching old skate videos earlier and it brought back memories. Have you guys ever made skate videos back? You mean like skateboard?
Yep.
Okay. I discovered some great music watching skate. I was not a skateboarder, so I did not.
That would be me.
That would be Tony.
That would be me. Yeah. I wasn't great at skating. I did a lot of it in high school and
I wasn't a skater
with my friends. But I did videotape a lot of my friends back in the day. And yeah, a lot of those like CKY videos that Bam was releasing before he even did Jackass and Viva La Bam and all that stuff. Like he did a lot of skateboarding stuff and the music off of that. Was really cool. Jason Lee, for those who don't know who Jason Lee is.
I like Jason Lee. Yeah, he's funny.
My name is Earl.
Mallrats?
Mallrats Brody. He did a lot of early 90s skate videos. He was a professional skater before he transitioned into acting. And a lot of the stuff that he did, we watched as especially young kids.
Right.
When he was pro at the time. I wasn't really big into like Tony Hawk and stuff like that, even though, I take nothing away from his accomplishments. But yeah, I was a moderate to, I was an okay skater. I wasn't like doing tricks and shit like a lot of my friends were doing, but I was photographing and doing videos of my friends in junior high and high school skateboarding. I was still doing it up until recently, but a lot of my friends here locally in Georgia that were skaters, they're gone. They moved, and so I don't really know anybody. And today's world, it's different just to go up and someone and be like, yo, can I photograph you doing a trick and stuff? It's just not like it was in the 90s. In the 90s, especially mid 90s, if I was bringing my camera around, which I would, and we were going to, there weren't even skate parks, to a spot, we would call it the spot, you know what I mean, that we were going to skate at and whatnot. If there was someone there that we didn't know who was doing tricks or, whatever, yeah, they'd be totally like, yeah, totally take my picture and shit. Today, you gotta be careful with that shit, man. Shit can get you arrested or get you beat up or fucking, just the weird world we live in now.
For sure. David Lee Barron sends in $4.99 and says, the only Avatar I grew up with was the Avatar The Last Airbender TV series. It's fantastic. I never seen it. I know that's the anime thing, right? That's completely unrelated to the Cameron thing. Yeah. I've never, is that, wait, Avatar The Last Airbender, didn't M. Night Shyamalan make a movie about Avatar The Last Airbender?
I don't know.
I think he did.
All I know is once you start talking about Avatar, do you remember All in the Family, the show All in the Family with Archie and Edith? Of course. You know how Edith would start going on and rambling and then Archie would pull out the fake gun?
Hey man, don't get me started.
Avatar.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So I think that's all. Have I got all the super chats? I think I have. I think I have. You want to just go like another 10 minutes or?
That's fine. If you want to do a couple of general questions.
Yeah, that'll take us to
so people can be like, "Dude, you just take super
That'll
chats.
Take us to 2.5 hours. General questions. General from the general audience. Let's see here. the usual suspects in the chat room. Looking for, let's see, scrolling back here. If you see one, by all means,
that's what I'm looking for. It's just mostly general chat.
You guys are talking about relationships. That's great.
I did see someone I saw someone mention that what's her name, the woman, or well, she's a lot older now, but the girl who plays Beth in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, she's a real estate agent.
Cool.
Selling homes.
That's cool.
Show her my photography work.
Speaking of girls from Halloween, Vicky from H18, have you seen Fall yet? The movie Fall?
You told me about that. No,
gotta watch. It's fucking great.
I know.
It's a great film. If you guys haven't seen the movie Fall, it's great. It's on Netflix right now. I would totally check it out. Robert Thidoff says, Dave and Tony, I saw the movie Living this past weekend, where Bill Nye is up for Best Actor. Fantastic movie. Made across the pond. Cool. I've heard of it. I know he's up for Best Actor, I believe. So that's cool. Thanks for the recommendation. Johnny T says, Dave and Tony, where does Saw franchise rank in your horror franchise rankings? As a franchise, the Saw franchise, well, it'd be near the bottom of the barrel for me. I would probably, I don't know. But to be fair, I'm not qualified to answer that. And the reason why
because I've only watched one, which was the first one. I never watched any of the other ones.
Yeah, I've only seen the first. I've seen the first one the most. I've only seen 2 and 3 once, and that's it. I haven't seen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Jigsaw, Spiral. What I haven't seen those movies, so I'm not qualified to answer. I don't know. I have no idea. I can tell you that I don't. I can tell you that I like the first Saw. Obviously, it's a classic. It's a great psychological horror movie. The second one I thought was okay, and the third one I was like, oh, here we are. We're going down here now, and then I just lost interest. I lost interest. So yeah, not qualified to answer it. 10 minutes to go in the show. 10 minutes to go in the show.
Sarah asked me what happened to my photography page. I just got rid of Instagram. In fact, me and Chrissy were talking about this the other day. Like, I'm kind of just like, I'm getting to my wit's end with social media. I mean, I need my Instagram for my business as far as for real estate photography on Instagram for that helps because I know I do get found on there.
Right.
That's how I got the gig for the clothing company here that I'm doing the shoot for next week for their opening for their store. Right. The 2 store openings that they're doing, one in February and one in May. They found me off of Instagram. So it is beneficial for that. But like right now I just have Facebook, and even that,
don't get rid of that. I love watching your fucking DJing Michael Myers mask shit.
It's I'm not going to get rid of it, but like I talked with you off camera about the changes, things that are going to happen by the end of this year between me and her. Good things, but like things that are going to change in my life. I'm not going to be as active on social media. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to still be around, but like, I mean, just kind of what happens when your relationship evolves and, of course, I mean, yes, I'm still going to obviously create mixes and stuff like that. But Sarah, I just put everything, I throw everything now onto just Facebook because it's a nice one-stop shop place for everything to go, and the photos that I take and, whatever me and her are up to, or, whatever, you know what I mean? Just, I can't do all that on Instagram. And like I said, Instagram too is just becoming like a freaking cesspool. And it was becoming very aggravating on there. So,
well, what's so
people stealing my stuff obviously was the big issue. And
and what I find tricky with social media is, and I understand, I do, I get it, but it you have to be posting all the time in order to stay relevant because of the algorithms and because of the, and sometimes I just don't have anything to say. I'm not I'm not the kind of person that goes on Twitter or Instagram and shares pictures of my lunch, you know, or
right.
or
I might
tweets.
Do that on a story, you know what I mean?
I mean, if it's relevant,
right.
if it's relevant,
right.
I'm sitting at, I don't know, I get hired for some big thing. I'm at Warner Brothers right now. Hey, here's my lunch I'm having at, but the lunch itself doesn't become the story. You know, I'm having a burger. Who fucking cares? Right. You know what I mean? Like I don't, and I'm not knocking people that do that, but it's true. Like you have to be, and they say that you got to be posting, not post. I'm like, oh, I don't want the fuck to post. I don't have anything to post. Right. So I think the last picture I posted on Instagram was from like 3 weeks ago, and it was me. It was the first animation voiceover session that I had for not had ever, but of the year, and my first in studio session of the year, and it was back on January 6th, I think. So I just like, you know, hey, first session of the year. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, you know, it was at the beginning of the year. You know, it would have been a bigger story if it was like May. Hey, finally working. No, but you know, but that was like 3 weeks ago, and
right.
And like Twitter's the same thing. Like lately, I've been posting, you know, posters from movies that I really like and all that kind of stuff, and that's fun. You know, I like doing that. But yeah, social media is
I'm still very like, shit. I mean, you and I were talking about this. Was it last week? It might have been last week that I mean, I never would I ever share anything involving my personal life. Like, I mean, ever. So what I'm even doing right now with Chrissy is way outside my comfort zone because I'm a very private person, but at the same time, it's a relationship that I'm very proud of. It's, you know, someone that's been in my life for 25 years. You know, our relationship goes back to when we were dating as teenagers. So I had to kind of loosen the grip up a little bit and just you know, don't just share the business. Don't just share, okay, I'm doing this. I'm photographing this house today. I'm photographing that house today, or, you know, DJing a mix, or, you know, just a general photo. I understand that people want to know personally. They want to know what's up. You know what I mean? But I've always been so guarded by that. You know what I mean? But through her and my relationship with her, I've definitely laxed on and become more relaxed on that. You know what I mean? And shared, you said that too. You like, dude, you have never seen you share pictures, you know, or talk about anything on social media. So that was just something was like, okay, you know, but even that, I still keep it very safeguarded. I keep it protected. I share what I want to share, and I leave it at that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to share every little fucking detail that me and her do, you know, or you know what I mean? Like, that's just no. But like, if I feel like there's something cute and something funny I want to do, or something I want to egg her on, like I did last week, you know, which if you saw it, you know, something like that. It's different. It's just, you know, you're having fun with it. But there's motherfuckers that I see, like there's friends of mine. They're every fucking day. It's like 5 or 6 fucking pictures of them and their boyfriend or significant other. And it's just like,
well, listen, and
holy fuck. Like, how many times are you going to do that a day? And it's like every day, you know, I'm not doing it every day. I'm doing it maybe once a week or some shit. You know what I mean? With regards to my relationship, but I can't do that everyday shit or every post shit.
I don't post anything from my private life either. And people who've followed me for any length of time obviously probably know that. Like again, unless it's some big, you know, reason to do so, like a reason to celebrate. Like when I was nominated for, you know, the Voice Arts Award, right? So there were pictures of me and my, you know, and my girl on the red carpet at Warner Brothers and all. Like, that's fun. That's exciting. You know, I get to share that. But just like day-to-day activities or day-to-day, I just like to keep things separate. I think it's good. I think when you put yourself out there in this sort of way, and everybody's got to do them. Everybody's got to do what works for them. But for me, I like the separation. You know, I do like that. I think it's important to be able to separate and have that disconnect disconnect from your private life and your public life or your social life. There's a separation, so you can actually tune out. If your public life and social life and private life are all wound together, then you never have an opportunity to actually disconnect and tune out.
I mean, it's like, I don't want to share every little intimate detail that me and her are doing, and whether it's a romantic date or just a day together, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to know every aspect. If it's something that's obviously I feel worth sharing, then that's obviously that's different. But if we're sitting back watching fucking movies or something, Indiana Jones or whatever, that I was telling Dave about over the weekend and stuff. I mean, I'm telling Dave that because I know Dave is a big fan of Indiana Jones, and I had never seen Indiana Jones movie. So, I was like, hey, this is actually really good. I'm enjoying this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I'm not going to share that shit. But there are motherfuckers out there that be like, where's one of my friends that does that shit all the time? She's showing like what movie she's watching with,
do you want to know what it is? I think and I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but it is a lot of it must have to do with the reinforcement of the likes and the clicks and that's not serotonin, the endorphins, but what's the word? The chemical that's released that gives you, what's the chemical that's released that gives you the happy feelings, the feelings of happiness? The chat room will let me know.
And that's wrong.
Oh, like totally.
I know where you're going with it. And it's wrong that's how our brain now is trained.
Yes, but it's been proven. It has been proven that likes and clicks and engagement and all that kind of stuff. So I think, and again, I'm not a professional. I'm not diagnosing. I'm just saying that it must be part of it, probably a gigantic part of it, of why people will dopamine. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua.
Yes, dopamine.
For sure, you get a dopamine hit, and there's that. And again, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not saying everybody, every situation, but it has to be a big part of it, of why people spend so much time sharing trivial things. Like I understand sharing, like I always, like when I get trivial, like as trivial as I'll get, there's always something, I always try to have like something interesting, like I'm not just going to take a picture of my lunch and hope that I get 20 likes.
Right.
I mean, I just don't understand that, right? Like today I shared a poster from the movie Breakdown, right? With Kurt Russell. It's a movie. Number one, it's one of my favorite movies. Number two, it's a movie that I think is underrated and doesn't get enough love. Number three, and I share that and that's fun, like to put out there. But I never, and maybe it's different now. Maybe social media is, maybe I'm thinking old school on this, but I remember when Facebook, especially Facebook, when it first began, don't you remember when people would just you had something called a status check-in. Do you remember that? Your status,
yeah.
Right? And you'd have
checking in safely at whatever.
Well, no, not even that. You'd have at the park, or
congratulations.
We have now getting out of the shower, and it's right. I don't care. Now getting out of the shower, or somebody make a post like, I just tried this new shampoo. It's wonderful. Click, heart. Oh my God, what's the ship? And I'm just like, oh my God. Now again, I just don't understand it. It's just like share something of value, share something cool, or share, I don't know. That's how I feel.
Well, no,
so whenever I post, I always try to, it's something, either that doesn't mean you're going to agree with my thoughts on whatever I'm posting, but I always try to post something that's interesting or mildly amusing, or, like as Steve Martin says in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, It's got to be interesting or mildly amusing. Your stories have none of that. Or something.
Well, you're kind of in the same scenario that I'm in, because I never really see you, and I'm not even friends with your girl on Facebook. So you're not one of you two obviously keep everything private. You know what I mean? But there's motherfuckers out there in this day and age, who they need to, and there's nothing wrong with showing, because I show,
not at all. I mean? There's nothing wrong with it.
But because you were talking about with the dopamine and stuff like that, they got to share it all the time. And not only do they got to share it all the time, motherfuckers be getting crazy over like who's liking shit all the time and just, you know, I mean, but there are some instances, and I had a situation here recently where
Tony had a situation.
Well, no, someone wasn't respecting my relationship with her, and they weren't respecting her.
That's not good.
And you know, when you start crossing that line, then you gotta go. Yeah. You know, when you're not respecting, but like. No, I'm not saying look, it's great to share stuff, and it's great to share, you know, when you're in a happy relationship and things are going good.
And there's but you also want to
keep you also want to keep you want to keep a bit of privacy to it as well too.
I think so too.
Not everything is for the world to know every little detail.
Like that
should be something more for you and your significant other to be enjoying.
Yeah, like this past summer, right? Me and my better half, we went to the beach a couple of times, right? There's this nice little beach on the shores of Lake Huron, and it's about a 3.5 hour drive from Toronto. And I had because I don't combine my private life with my social public life, I can put my phone down. I mean, I'll check my phone for the time, or I'll check to see if I have like an email from my agent or something, but I can put the phone down, enjoy the entire day on the beach, and never feel like I need to check in on social media. And that's because I know where I am. This is private time. This is personal time, right? That's what it is. You know, I don't have to sit there surfing Twitter while I'm at the beach, you know, and you know, or Instagram, because I'm not combining anything. I'm not taking photos of the beach and of the sand and of the boat going by. And I mean, I might take photos, but I'm not posting them online, right? And then I got to check in to see if anybody's liking my beach photo. Again, it depends. If you've gone away to Cancun and it's a wedding or it's a vacation, I get that. But just a day to the beach, you know, like the local beach, you know, I find that stuff, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's important that to have that separation for mental health too. I think it's important mentally, because the online world isn't the real world. No. And I think when you combine and you blur those lines, it's nice to check out. Like, isn't it nice to kind of just check out and like live in the real world? And sometimes I'll leave my phone in the car. You know, I'll leave my phone in the car, or, you know, whatever the case. I don't do that all the time, but I'm trying to get more into the habit. If we're going into the restaurant or something or wherever, I'll just leave my phone in the car. I don't read it.
My fucking biggest pet peeve is checking your phones while you're out to dinner at a restaurant. I will put my phone in my back pocket and it stays there until we're done eating. Yeah. I'm not, because I'm there with you. I'm there.
Right.
We're here together. I'm not here to do this. I'm here with you. I'm here with you in the moment.
Then you have those people that take photos of them at the restaurant, of the food at the restaurant, and then they post them while they're at the restaurant, and then they're checking to see all the likes and hearts while they're at the restaurant. You're not in the moment. You're not in the moment. In reality, pretend it's 1995. For those of you that remember 1995, you know,
look, if it's an anniversary and you're going out to dinner, that's different.
It's different. Right. It absolutely, there are situations where it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. But I don't need to see a picture of your stub toe. I just need to say that. I don't need to. So many people. I can't believe how many people post feet pictures on social media. I don't need to see your fucking toe. You stubbed your toe. I get that it hurts, but you don't need to tell you. You can just tell us you stubbed your toe. You don't need to take a gigantic telescopic, you know, or telephoto, you know, zoom lens photo of the toe that has been stubbed. You know, I don't need to see your fucking feet, okay? No. I don't need to see it.
It's crazy because I'm just thinking, like, when we were younger, I would never envision sharing half the shit that people be sharing on social media. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just nuts. No, Static. I never had a pager. No.
I didn't. My friend Brian had a pager, but I didn't have a pager. No,
I never really needed it. Like,
I didn't either. Brian needed it because his dad was paranoid. It's true. It's true. If Brian is watching right now, you know it's true.
Sorry, Brian.
You know it's true. It's totally true.
Apparently, we missed one here because she's.
And we went over time, but whatever.
Yeah,
we missed one.
Yeah, because Chrissy's watching us, and she said,
"Oh, hello, Chrissy."
Bobby Hall had a question about how would you rank the Halloween sequences.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. Before we get to that, Mike Mick or Mike MC sent in $2, and he just said Dark Night of the Scarecrow. Haven't seen it yet. Have you seen it?
Haven't seen it yet. Oh, no, I have seen that. That's an 80s movie with
yeah.
I know the guy who. Yeah, I have seen that.
Got to see that. Thank you for the super chat. By the way, appreciate it. And then the other one here is from Daniel Palma, who sends in $1.99. Says Last of Us. Seen it? Thoughts? If yes, watch it.
No.
Watch if no.
I keep hearing about it, but
not seen it. I'm not a gamer. Now, I understand that you don't have to play the game, or it's just great television objectively. That's great. I understand that. But because I'm not familiar with the game and I don't have an emotional attachment to the game, that's the reason I haven't checked it out yet. I'm not in a rush, to check it out, because I don't have anything that's, I'm like, I gotta check this out. But I am thrilled for everybody out there who are fans of the game, who are really enjoying the show. Like I'm thrilled for you. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Bobby Hall. I know he's one of the guys that's here a lot about the Halloween.
Bobby Hall's a great supporter.
Halloween sequences.
Halloween sequences?
Was that the question?
I'm not sure what the question
He might not even be in the chat room anymore.
Was it a super chat or was it just...
I hope it wasn't. Was it a super chat? Double check.
I don't think it was. I'm scrolling back here for Bobby Hall.
Yeah, Bobby Hall's been here for a minute. Oh, there it is. D&T, my question was, how would you rank these Halloween sequences from worst to least? Halloween 6 producer's cut climax, Resurrection opening that retcons H2O ending, Halloween Kills hospital mob scene. So how would we rank these scenes basically from worst to least worst? The producer's cut climax scene, Resurrection opening that retcons Halloween 2's ending scene, or the Halloween Kills mob. See, I would actually almost say in that exact sequence from what you just said. 1, Halloween 6 producer cut climax. 2, Resurrection opening. And then 3, the kill scene. I'm going from
you could go in that order.
No, wait. I'm sorry. I meant that wrong. From worst to least worst, it's in reverse. Worst is the Halloween Kills mob scene. Least worst, Resurrection. Less worst, Resurrection opening, retcons H2 ending. And then least worst, H6 producer's cut climax. I'm sorry, I meant that in reverse. I didn't mean it
Well, the H6
producers
the H6 producer's cut climax I would probably put first. And it's not great. No, I'm sorry, last. And the reason why I say last, as in the best out of the 3, is because it's not the best.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. But I would put the producer's cut as the producer's cut climax as, in this situation, as the best. It's dog shit. It's awful. But out of these 3, it's the best because it does connect to the rest of the narrative. It connects to the rest of the story. Now, the story is terrible, but it connects to the rest of it. So at least there's consistency there. So that would be the best. In the middle, I would probably put, this is a tough one. Yeah, I'd probably put the Resurrection thing. It's tough because it makes no fucking sense. It's like, so the paramedic and whatever, but to Tony's point, I might feel the same way. I mean, I could see a situation where I put the Resurrection one as the worst, because it just logistically, it's just like, what? So you want me to believe that Michael Myers got buck naked and switched out with this, paramedic, and at no point did the paramedic decide to take off the mask? Oh, he was just, and I love Halloween fans. Oh, he was too disoriented. He just didn't know where he was. At no point did he decide. So when he woke up in the back of the fucking thing and the body bag comes off and he didn't decide to take it out. No. And when he's on the road and he sits up like he's hammered and he looks over, at no point did he decide, what's going on? No. It's just, okay, whatever helps you sleep at night. It's just so absurd. It's ridiculous. But then the mob scene is also as equally ridiculous. So, they can be interchanged for me. So, I hear what you're saying, Tony. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think that's going to do it, folks. That is going to do it for this episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you to our great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, Chris Faber.
Bullshit tonight.
We did. Absolutely. And Andrew Stevens for being our great mods. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in tonight. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching after the fact, comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on the Conjuring universe, on our ideas we talked about here tonight, where you would like to see the Conjuring 4 go. Do you want the universe to continue after the Nun 2? Or do you want them to kind of just focus on the heart of the Conjuring franchise, which of course is the Ed and Lorraine story? And let us know. Jump into the comment section below and let us know down below. Tony and I will be back, of course, next Monday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tony, any last things you'd like to say?
No, this is fun.
Nope, that's it. All right, folks. In the meantime and in between time, we will talk to you soon. Cheers.